order. I see all three of us are here, so we have a quorum. Let's go ahead and I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, any additions or revisions to the agenda?
I didn't have any. Oh, we need to view some of the site.
Maybe?
Look like I'm here.
You need to view the speakers as well.
Yes. Yeah, that's right. So for additions under unfinished business 6.4, I just want to do an update on fiber discussions with the city. Okay. Because we had a good meeting yesterday. You guys want to see them? Any other additions or revisions? Okay, we are still a few minutes before the public hearing, so let's do correspondence and public comment really quick. Public comment. Individuals wishing to address the county court may do so at this time and other times throughout the meeting. Speakers are asked to raise your hand to be recognized by the chair, give the name and address, and limit comments to 3 minutes. Do we have any public comments? For those who are joining us via Zoom, you can unmute your phones by pressing *6, or it's in the lower left-hand side of your screen, of your Zoom screen. You can unmute that way. And then I always like to tell people, remind people that we're pretty informal here. So as we move through the agenda, if there's something that you would like to speak up on or ask a question about or have a comment, all three of us are more than open to that. So any public comments? If not, under correspondence, I just wanted to note there's a letter from Justice of the Peace Chris Patno regarding her continuing education, legal education hours. So that is part of the packet. And then we also have some final reports. We have the operational grant program final report on the Canyon Golf Course, as well as one from Summit Springs Village for their operational grant program final report. Again, for all for folks who want to see any of these, they are all available online with the court packet materials. Let's see, we still have 2 minutes, so let's maybe do consent agenda and we can go back up and get back over there.
Hey, can I ask something about the consent agenda?
Of course, of course.
The 5.5. What do you think about that?
So that is a request that is coming from Chris Fitzsimmons, and it looks like basically she's asking for permission.
Yes, she is asking for permission. Their time. This is something she does anytime it's available. She applies for this grant. Right now, this year they have shortened the time frame for her to get her requests in. So she hasn't had time to get RFPs or anything yet. And so she was just asking for the blessing to apply for the grant. So she can say, yes, we are going to apply for the grant, and then get the RFPs for the internet and the fairgrounds for the emergency systems up there, and then come back to the court when she receives the RFPs.
Okay, and then 5.6 is really about right of way for the construction of the substation off the bottom hour.
Yes. Correct. Yeah, Dewey got that to me a little late.
Yeah, been some guys from Aberdeen that there's some frustration going on with that thing. Anyone? Okay.
Any other questions on consent agenda?
I move we accept the consent agenda. Approve it.
A second.
And moved in second that we approve the consent agenda, which consists of consider approval of March 3rd, 2021 regular meeting minutes, consider approval of March bills pending review, consider approval of 2021 through 2023 juvenile crime prevention plan, consider appointment of Tim Jones to the Gillan County Road Committee, consider approval of Oregon Emergency Management State Homeland Security grant submittal, and consider approval of application from PAR electrical contractors for activities in Gillan County right of way. Is there further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay. We are just past our time for our public hearings, so let's go into that. This is the time duly set and advertised for a public hearing in the matter of the Gillan County Weed Control Special Assessment for fiscal year 2021 through 2022. The rate for the 2021-2022 year has been proposed at 7 cents per acre. Hearings are conducted in accordance with ORS 569.175 through 569.620. This hearing is for the purpose of gathering evidence as to the need for, identifying who will benefit from, and to take public input on the special weed assessment rate. This is a legislative hearing. All those in attendance that wish to testify are asked to sign the attendance sheet. The hearing is now open. And so we'll see. Is that 2851? I'm just looking.
Yeah, that's,
Is that the weed? Or is that Dewey? So I will just ask, because our weed master is not here, if anybody wishes to have public testimony. And for those who are joining us via Zoom, you push star 6 to unmute yourself, and Teresa will be capturing your name and address, so make sure that you speak slowly and clearly. And if you are signing in via the Zoom platform, the mute button is in the lower left-hand side. Is there anybody who wishes to provide public comment, public testimony? If not, just for everyone's edification, we do a continuation of the hearing so that we have the hearing in both places. And so we will be continuing this hearing in Condon during the next meeting, and we will ask the weed master to join us there as well, so that he can provide any updates or answer questions. Last call for anybody who wants to do public testimony for today. Okay, if not, the hearing is hereby recessed. This hearing will be continuing to April 7th at 10:05 a.m. at the Gillan County Courthouse in Arlington, Oregon. Let's move on to unfinished business. Yes, 6.1, consider a proclamation opposing Senate Bill 554. Yeah.
So I read through the proclamation of gun form. We've seen problems with it.
I did not have any problems or concerns.
I did want to note on the record that we received communication from Wally Powell, 2 separate emails. Both will be included as part of the record, the packet materials on the website. So anybody who is interested in Wally's feedback on this, that's where you can find it. I also wanted to just note for the record, and we can make sure that this gets into the minutes, that AOC during their last legislative meeting considered whether to approve or whether to oppose this bill. I sit on the committee on behalf of the county, and based on our previous conversation, it seemed like there was majority of the court members were opposed to it, so I went ahead and voted for AOC to oppose the bill in the legislature, if that makes sense. It was affirmative, yes, oppose it. And so, and that had a majority support at AOC's
AOC was 33 to 7 in opposition.
Yeah, so AOC will officially be opposing that at the legislature. I just wanted to make sure that that was on the record.
And the last time I looked, it looked like it was
I
much.
was trying to see how much it moved today, and it's real confusing. I listened to a lot of testimony, live testimony from February 22nd, and a lot of the teachers and those in the valley were supporting, but there's a lot of opposition. Just does not make sense.
So I would recommend if the court decides to move forward, amending the motion language just slightly, just moving to approve it, without saying where it needs to be sent to, because it's already moved out of that particular committee that they're referencing in the motion language. And so if the court decides they want to move forward, I think Teresa and I can track down where it needs to go next. So maybe the Senate president needs to go to, or if it gets re-referred to a committee.
So can you amend it?
The proclamation itself.
I don't know that you need to do the proclamation, just the motion.
Yeah.
There's a motion.
Just take off the sin to, right? I moved it for the proclamation.
Yeah.
Well, I move to approve the proclamation to oppose SB 554.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the proclamation to oppose Senate Bill 554. Is there further discussion? I will say for the record, I'm planning on actually abstaining from the vote. Today I'm not going to vote either way. The reason being, I'm concerned about the county court weighing in on legislation that is potentially divisive and that isn't necessarily something that impacts our sort of scope, if that makes sense. So I definitely think when something's before the legislature and it involves county business, we should be weighing in. When it's something that maybe doesn't so much, then I'm feeling like I'm not comfortable with the court always weighing in on bills that there may be somebody in the public that just opposes. I think we'll find ourselves over and over again spending a lot of time opposing legislation that may not be going anywhere and county resources to do it. So I just wanted to put on the record my thought process behind it. And I also want to say that's not necessarily reflective of my opinion on the bill itself. It's more of a process point. So with that, any further discussion?
I just say that I think it's important to have an opinion on where the other that we do stand, so it helps us with things.
Okay. Further discussion? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? And I will abstain, so the motion passes. Let's go into 6.2, update on North Central Public Health District budget request. You, right?
Yeah, all I can tell you is in the confusion that's going on with North Central salary survey, that what they are planning on doing is probably giving across the board 3% raise to their employees this year. And it's not going to affect Sherman County or Gillan County in their expense budget items that fund public health. We will, however, have our annual, we understand, a 3% increase, which, if I remember correctly, was about $134,000, some dollars to $138,000.
Okay.
That would be what would impact our budget. I'm sure that's true.
Okay.
And then also, where are we at on getting somebody from Gillan County to sit on the nurses public health?
I've advertised for that. Nobody has sent any county correspondence in for letters of interest.
You need a solicitor or something, I would think we want somebody.
Yeah, if we have somebody in mind that might be good on it, I think we're gonna have to recruit, honestly.
Well, don't we have board members now that don't attend the meetings? That's what
We have three county board members, but from Gillan County, Danny's been on there and she's very active on board. She's asked one big question, and I have a lot of the same, I can tell, think along the same way in regards to where we go with the district of Gillan County. And then absolutely nothing from the North End.
Yeah.
The team.
Tina Ferguson sits on the board, but she hasn't been active.
I've been on 3 board meetings in Chattanooga.
I think, Leslie Monroe was concerned about that too, but she hadn't attended previously either.
Health district to complain about it.
Yeah, she
You know-
complained we don't want a meeting.
You know, who might, have we asked former Commissioner Weatherall?
I
if she
wondered
might
about
sit
that
on
too.
it?
Oh, that's a good idea.
Maybe let's
She's
reach
got-
out to
she's
her
got some
and see
background.
if she would be willing to. I think they only meet maybe once or twice, so.
I've got the legislative, so.
And I know that she's still very, very interested in what's happening. I talk to
That's a really
her
good
at least once a week, so.
Do you want to, will you talk?
I
to
would
her?
love to talk.
Okay, if you'll talk to her and then let Teresa know if we need to.
Right.
Text her, Leslie, we just appointed you.
Right.
But I think that would be great since she's got some history with that budget.
And she
She's
cares.
a numbers person, so.
Oh, yeah.
Any other updates?
That's all I've got. They are starting a recruiting process for the executive director, and they've asked me to sit on the meeting for that on the initial recruiting part, so I think we have a meeting later on this month.
Let's move on to 6.3 update on county construction projects, timelines, and RFP. Mr. Shaw.
Morning.
Right.
You want to take this off?
No, please do.
Read my lips.
Then we need see her too.
All right, so why don't we just start with Collie and Sons building? So a good one to start with. So that one, we're ready to go out for an RFP on that one. As I understand the scope, the way that we were going to address this was we're going to get it demoed, and then we were going to look at whether we wanted to do additional work to development after we got rid of the building. Okay, so we did an asbestos assessment on the building. There's quite a bit of asbestos in it. I think my intent right now is to issue it just as an asbestos abatement and demolition if you want. Because we know that there's on the siding, the asphalt siding on the outside of it, the shingles has asphalt in the glue between them. And then also the roofing, underneath the metal roofing, there's also some asbestos there. I don't know how much there is because it's underneath the metal roofing, but we know there is at the edge. So I think that's the simplest way, just get rid of it that way. Just kind of let it contract. The reason I haven't sent the RFP out for it is because of the restroom projects, although I'm not sure we necessarily need to tie those together because there's going to be some asbestos abatement with the restroom project depending on how you want to proceed with it. So I submitted some drawings. I don't know if they're up, but essentially the scope of the project is to make the 5 restrooms in the courthouse ADA compliant. And there's quite a bit of work associated with each one. I haven't done a detailed cost opinion, but I'm going to say that based on what I see, it's going to be probably about $25,000 to $50,000 per restroom to do that. That's my feeling right now, probably towards the 50 side of it rather than 25. But it kind of depends on what we have for contractors and who we can get there. One of the things that makes that project problematic, or I should say it'll take time and increase the cost on it, is that we can't just shut all 5 restrooms down at once, right? So my thought on how to do this is to do the 2 restrooms on either floor at the same time and get them done and then move to the next floor, right? And then there's the one in the jury, which could be done with the other one. So there's going to be kind of like these 2 mobilizations with it. And with that, you have all the craft involved. There's plumbing, electrical, maybe heating, but there's sheetrock, there's wood. the plans I have now also show in front of each of the main restrooms, for lack of a better word, a coffee bar. So right now, in the original courthouse, there was a sink at each level, I think, at just outside the restroom. And at, I believe the upstairs one, the sink is still there. The downstairs one, I think the sink is gone. I may be mistaken about that. But there's still the plumbing in place for that. And so my intent was like, well, because there is limited availability in that for break rooms and for that kind of stuff in the courthouse, that would give you a sink and a coffee bar at each level that would be essentially available to the entire staff to do that. And then there would be some coverage associated with that. My thinking is there would be a coffee machine or something like that, potentially a microwave. There's really not, well, I guess you could put an under-counter refrigerator in there if you wanted to, but that's where we are. So I would say on that design project, we're probably 50% done on them. We've got a pretty good set. The question is how much more do you want us to put out? And when can we put it out? You know, probably I would say 3 to 4 weeks we can put that thing out to bid. I think that makes sense to do it in that time frame because there are going to be some general contractors in town this summer because the school project is one of them. So that I think potentially does help if that can be coordinated and there's some other projects at the school. So
And with that one too, we're moving the security door.
yes, we're
And
adding a
switching
security
out the
door.
doors in the.
We're swapping doors downstairs and then we're adding a security door in we're adding a security door in the hallway between essentially the main entrance to the jury room and just past the break room before you get to the circuit court office.
Questions for Jeff?
I don't either.
Are you guys comfortable with what you've seen of the drawings so far and the coffee bar idea?
Yeah.
Any
Okay.
feedback you want to give him on any of that? Are we good? You want us to just run with it?
No,
Proceed with it.
pretty
Okay.
simple.
And then for the barrier piece,
I have not done anything on the
that'll be a
barrier piece.
next.
That's going to be a separate one.
Okay.
I haven't had a conversation with the sheriff about that. So I'm not sure where he is on that. So I will contact him, but we haven't, that's not part of this scope of work, other than the security door in the hallway next to the jury.
I will say too, just to make sure that we remind folks why we're looking at the bathrooms. This all started with DMV threatening to leave if we did not have an ADA accessible bathroom on their level. And so the previous court decided if we're going to upgrade one, we might as well take care of them all at the same time. And so this is sort of why it's coming about. DMV is still clearly suggesting they might be willing to pay for part of one of the bathrooms on their floor. So once we have numbers back, I might be able to get some money out of the state to cover part of the cost, but we'll see.
Okay. Which floor is their floor?
The bottom.
Okay.
But they had pushed back and said that no one traveling and not having gas tax coming into ODOT, they're not sure that they can live up to that commitment. So we'll see.
Finding a reason.
Discussions are ongoing.
Okay. That sounds
One other thing that came up during our last meeting was replacing the courthouse windows.
good. Oh,
And so I'm gonna put you on the spot a little bit.
Okay.
But see if that may be something that you're willing to take a look at.
I would take a look at it.
Okay.
That's a big
We were
project.
trying to get that, so we don't put on for next year's budget.
Right.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yes, I'll take a look at that and try to get you a proposal. At least try to get you a budget number moving forward.
Just even a big round number is fine, but, and an assessment of what could be done. I think Daryl had told us that there's some that are leaking. There's some that you can sort of feel the wind blow through your hair if you stand too close to it.
So I think those windows may have been redone. I have to go back and look. I have some records of it. You might want to look in the court archive, the county archives, from the wall. That's where they still are. In the 1994 upgrade. So 1994, I think it was 1994, they added on that entry that's on it's not really the front door, it's the back door, but the west entry to the courthouse. They put in the ADA chairlift. They rewired the courthouse, and I think they did some work on the windows associated with that. So that was a big project that they did. So it might be worth something like that.
That was 3 years ago almost.
Yes.
So
It's probably
if you could just give me
Oh,
round,
round number.
big round numbers.
Okay.
So I can show you that.
It'll be a pretty good size round number.
That's, yeah.
All right. Is there any
Any
other?
questions? So are you guys, just for clarity's sake, so we have it on the record, are you guys comfortable with Jeff go ahead and issuing those RFPs for both projects without that coming back to the board?
Yes.
Yeah, I have to.
Okay, so I'll put that in. When we put it in, I mean, it'll probably be, we'll submit things for permit bid and probably, round numbers probably a month from now. So it'll probably all come in at that point. So we'll see what happens.
Put you back on to approve the winning bid.
Okay, so it's great. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Joe.
All right, let's move on to 64, which is private discussion. I just wanted to update the board. Yesterday, had a really good meeting with Catherine, the city of Condon, her winners from SWCD, and Gib Wilkins was there as well from the city, talking about next steps for our mapping. And I was pleasantly surprised to find out that SWCD has the capability to do that in-house. And SWCD, Stormwater Conservation District, HERB can do that for us. All he needs from us basically are the data points. And so Catherine and I are talking about probably putting out a survey to the community where folks would come in, give us their address and current speeds, where they're getting their internet from, if they're willing to, or if they're interested in having,
Or if they're not
getting it at all. And based on that, I think we can put it into a spreadsheet. Then Herb can upload that into his program. And he has the actual ability, this was really cool, to put in all of the existing towers. And he can put in all of the grain elevators and things that we have in the county. And then he can do a line of sight map based on the topography of the land that tells us which houses can see which towers, anything like that. And we can use that then to work with a consultant to actually map out an entire system. That could be a hybrid of fiber and wireless or whatever we sort of decide based on budget. And so that was fantastic. So I don't think we're going to need to go out for an RFP and look for somebody to do mapping. He was willing to do that. I did let him know, and for the record, so the public knows, the county will be receiving about $370,000 from this latest stimulus package from the feds.
Is that 370 in the initial? So that was gonna come in 2 payments.
Split over 2 years, yeah.
So that would be split 370. That's what it was, 370.
It may be a little bit, I'm just working off the top of my head, and Ainsley didn't sleep well last night, so I might not have that number right. But
It was less than what I expected. I remember that, but-
yeah,
I wrote that down somewhere.
yeah, but we can use it for broadband.
Right.
So if we want to use it to, what I guess I'm gonna propose to us is that we use it for any additional capacity that SWCD needs to be able to do that.
Have they confirmed the use on those funds yet? Or they just generally making some mistakes?
I think the administration is still figuring out the rules on how it'll be distributed and whether it's reimbursable or just a lump sum payment. Broadband was for sure listed as a use. So I think we're safe to do that. And so as long as we don't have other COVID-related expenses that come up that we needed to use that money for, I think we could probably spend that money on broadband deployment if we wanted to. So what we talked about yesterday was for her to go back and see if he would need additional time, that maybe the county would compensate, provide some capacity funding for SWCD if he needs staff time for that. He initially thought that our current agreement with them, or our TMDL, total maximum daily load agreement, you remember we did this a while ago, it was a water quality thing in the John Way. So we have a contract with them that we give them $50,000 a year for implementation of that. Part of that included GIS mapping, which is what this is. So he thought it might be covered under our current contracts, but I told him to go ahead and let us know if we needed additional capacity, that we might be able to use some of those federal funds to provide that. And we would also probably be looking at putting out that survey, asking folks to voluntarily give us that information, and then for the missing gaps, we probably would be looking at setting some interns loose this summer to actually drive out to the houses. They can GPS map off of the cell phone, ask people who are home questions, and just enter them right there so that we can make sure that we have a full data set to be able to map. And then the other piece of that then would be for us to look at putting together an RFP to find, I'm just calling it a systems engineer, I don't know what they would actually call it, but somebody that can provide the technical expertise of how do we reach each house with either a signal from a wireless or fiber. And we would probably maybe ask them to give us a couple of scenarios, like if we wanted to do fiber to every home, what would it cost, just so we have an idea of what that would look like. If we wanted to do a completely wireless system, what would that cost? And if we wanted to do a hybrid, what would that look like? Just so that we have some idea, and maybe in future budget years start putting some funds aside for that. And then that map will also allow us, I think, to go after some federal monies potentially. That is the goal. And then for our current ISPs, we might also be able to show them that map and say, hey, this is your tower right here. Can you hit these 10 homes that apparently have line of sight? Because her will be able to tell us based on his topography maps who can actually see towers. And there may be some people who could have access that don't know to ask for it because they don't realize they have a line of sight to a provider. So that was my exciting update.
That is exciting.
Well, it seems like the federal government's got broadband in the radar.
They really do, yeah.
Yeah. When we had our meeting with Senator Berkeley last week, he also mentioned that the next major piece of legislation would be infrastructure, and that there would likely be broadband funding in that, and that possibly as well some earmarks, congressional earmarks. And so that is something that I think as a court we might want to start lobbying our federal delegation on, that we would like, if they're able to do earmarks, to consider doing an earmark for broadband here. And if we can get our ducks in a row before the bill is passed. So
Earmarks never made any sense to me until I started looking into it recently. Yeah, this is valuable.
it can, having worked on Capitol Bill, for little communities like ours that don't have the money to go out and hire big time consultants to have to go through the bureaucracy, it can be really effective because all we need to do is get the ear of one legislator. It's a lot easier sometimes than having to compete with every other small community in the country.
Keep it from abuse.
Exactly. As long as people put their name on them and it's clear what the money is going towards, I think Congress is in charge of spending. I think it's appropriate for them to direct it to projects. So anyway, any other questions on that? Go ahead.
I'm sorry. So countywide, I know this is something that the state is pushing for schools too, and they give us some funding, for Condon and Arlington. We'd love to tap into that because that definitely is a huge roadblock for our student, across the county.
No question.
So anything that we can help do, there definitely is funding that has been directly connected to the schools for that.
That would be fantastic. So maybe what we could do as part of our survey questions, I see Catherine's on there, and so I'll just note this for her, is if we could maybe ask the question, is there a student in your home?
Yeah.
Student or teacher?
Teacher, yeah.
And that would allow us then to, Catherine just gave us the thumbs up, that would allow us then to pinpoint and have our consultant look at areas that we can target potentially and maybe direct some of that money to help serving those particular
Oh, and
houses.
like you said, I think we're gonna be more diverse for federal funding, because it's gonna be directly tied to the students, but I know Governor Stead is absolutely going for that.
Fantastic. Catherine's taking notes. I can see her on Zoom, so.
My one question is that's a good, let us know if there's any other questions that need to be related to the school to go on this survey that would help with that process. So I guess I have a general list right now, but let me know what other ones so we can make sure we pinpoint what the funding is for the school or any of the other funding.
You might want to reach out to Congress too. Yeah, Arlington.
Yeah. If we can talk to Michelle. Hi, other Michelle.
I was just gonna say, I think education is very important, and we don't want to overlook the college, university aspect too, because especially with COVID, students that may be at home taking their classes, or we do have, I think both Arlington and Condon are working with community colleges for education too, and you can't always do that at the school facility, so I think let's not forget that connection too.
That's great. Other comments, questions about this? I'm just gonna stay on it, and I will, once we get, Catherine's gonna help me with the RFP with some other entities she's been working with on some of the projects the city's working on. So we're gonna see if we can cobble together an RFP to bring back to the court for us to take a look at. But I think we'll definitely need some subject matter expertise on how to deploy fiber. So I think we're gonna need somebody who can help us navigate that piece. So I will bring that back to the court once we get that put together. Questions? All right.
Very promising.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm energized about that. Let's go on to 7.1, which is discuss public health feasibility study. Ollie's here and Dave Anderson.
I think we're doing it later.
You're just in time.
Our agenda throws people off. That consent agenda makes it look like we're here for a long time.
We talk about artist split.
It's one motion and we're through it. So just to kick this off, during our meeting, 2 meetings ago, we started kicking around the idea of what would it look like if public health came back to Gilliam County. And Collie and I had discussions about this previously, about maybe doing a feasibility study to see if that would even be a possibility for the health districts to bring that back in. And so the court had suggested that you guys can talk to this thing. So here you are.
Yeah, and I, sorry, I have those copies. Couldn't get them to you earlier. So Dave and I have talked a little bit about this. We've talked about it over the last few years, but
We've talked about it a lot,
but this specific report or proposal. So all I really did was kind of outline what my thoughts are on how we would move forward with the feasibility study. And as anything, you kind of have to know how much you're looking at costs. So we just put, down kind of what we thought would be an average cost. It really depends on what kind of person we're going to find to help out with the project. And then also the job description is kind of a work in progress. So it's nothing that, we're saying this is the
the final draft or anything. So if there's some areas on this that you want me to explain, let me know.
Well, I will just throw out, but I do think this past year in particular, when I first became judge, I wasn't completely clear what public health did, I'll be honest. That was confusing on what's public health versus what do the health districts do and how are they different. And I think 2020 really highlighted the importance of what public health does in areas where the county, our county, may not be getting the level of service that we would if it was in-house, if that makes sense. The fact that we're sort of the little fish, with Wasco County kind of being the big player in the current district, I know creates some struggles, both with the health districts and with Chris Fitz, who's spent a lot of time on the phone, trying to get testing, vaccines, all kinds of things throughout this entire last year. And so I think it's, from my perspective, I think it's worth having the discussion and doing the research on whether it's feasible to look at bringing it back. It doesn't say for sure that we are bringing it back. We have to do our due diligence. But I think the pandemic has highlighted some of the weaknesses in the partnership. I would say that.
And if I could add, it definitely has highlighted the weaknesses, but there were even weaknesses before. So it just, to me at least, it kind of just multiplies. You know, they were kind of unsteady on doing their day-to-day things, and now the pandemic just made it exponentially worse. So.
Yeah, and I think I've talked to all of you about this. You know, we've been kicking this can down the road for 8 years. And, you know, clear back when we first hired someone to, you know, check in to tell us exactly what the ORS says is supposed to be provided as far as public health goes. And then the letter that we sent to public health asking, okay, you know, what is it that you're actually doing? And that letter never got answered. And so we've, you know, like Dave said, we as a clinic and the health district have seen deficiencies for years. So, but since the pandemic is so polarized and upfront, that made it, you know, everyone else be able to open their eyes and see more of it. Yeah, because it affected everyone directly. So,
as a board member, on Super Public Health District, very new at it, feeling my way through the process. And I mentioned earlier that Danny's been on there asking a lot of the questions that I think need to be asked of them about trying to get some of this information put together, because we know this is lying back here. Not really divulging a lot of that. But in saying that, from what I can see, what they've done with the pandemic and stuff, and I would love to have you explain to me where you think the inadequacies have been. I feel like done a fairly good job. The big problem has been no vaccines. And they've been fairly fair in what they've allocated. Has been over the percentage of population we've got, we've been allocated, and we've got some other assistance from NCD, some of those things that we've got some other vaccines, but the whole vaccine issue has been problematic for the nation, not just Gillan County, not just myself. I think, so the problems before are more important to me than what's been wrong, because
yes,
everybody has struggled with the pandemic, has been a struggle for everything.
I agree.
And they have done quite a bit of stuff, and like I said, they have some, you know, reports and stuff I've looked at that are pretty impressive on some of the work they've done, but That being said, my biggest concern on all of it is that, and we're looking at about $140,000 what we give them what we do locally with the 140. The funding's gonna have to come through the health district. So I wouldn't be in favor of the court throwing a bunch of money at health districts to, and then the other thing is, I really think it's a time to look at a health district.
You know, certainly the health districts would end up putting money toward it, whether it be personnel or space, whatever. And that would just be a natural. As far as the 140 or whatever it is, more money comes from the state also, which.
Well, that's what I finally got an answer on, is that 140 is just county money. And then the rest of it is state funding that they're bringing in. I understand a lot of those programs.
And yeah, you know, and so.
State.
Yes, and so it definitely, the whole one health district, I think you'll be pulling teeth, but so we'll stick on the other part.
Now you know where I am, David.
Pat, I agree with you.
I agree with that as well.
The fragmented health system in Gillan County just seems crazy.
Yeah.
Well, it's a throwback to the before time. So regardless of that, as far as the health district or the health department is concerned, if it were in-house, we would be able to, you know, consolidate what we are doing. And I think that's one of the important parts. We are certainly not the priority, you know, and all the propaganda of, and I mean that in the best sense of the term, propaganda of, by golly, rural America is very important. I've found out that is not the case, especially with the pandemic thing. But you know, it seems to us, and you know, other people we've talked to in other counties, that their focus is Wasco, and it has to be. They've got way more people, they've got way more issues, but you know, we ask for simple things, and we just don't get them in a timely fashion. And if we do, to us, it seems to be kind of an afterthought, and you know, that has kind of been forever. And as far as the pandemic's concerned, yeah, they've worked their asses off during the pandemic. But the point is, it seems like nothing was thought out before. And I believe a large part of their focus is, you know, pre-planning. And it just shows deficiencies in leadership and planning through the whole level. And I was on the board initially also when I got here for 2 or 3 years. And it was horrible trying to get information out of there, even as a board member.
I do know, and Danny asked for stuff too, we're trying to get the other side of this. You give us what you think you were doing for us, so we have that piece for this.
Yeah.
And I have the newer IGA, and what you guys have.
Mm-hmm.
So there was, I don't know, I've got quite a bit of information. More documents, so.
Mm-hmm.
And the feasibility study will bring all that out.
Yeah, and I think, like I mentioned in this, it's really important to kind of have some data and some information from public health. Which, in my opinion, I think that they should be giving that to the county court annually. How do you know that what you're getting for your money? Are they out here in a presence? We don't see it. And there's so many different components of public health and programs. And then they're getting state money. And then they're also using Gillan County in grant proposals that you probably don't even know about, and making promises in these grants that we're not a part of. So
there's probably a lot of that that's going on, because right now they've got a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
And it's all coming from federal assistance and grants.
Yep.
And they're probably in better shape than they've ever been right now. So that's right.
Mm-hmm.
Because, but yeah, there's a lot of stuff to gather into this. I mean, it's like, you know, from the personal side, we have that restaurants back here. So they have, you know, the pandemic has affected a lot of the services that they do, no question.
Mm-hmm.
From my perspective, what I saw my perspective of what happened with the COVID thing was they had services, but they were in Wasco County. And when we asked for them to come to Gillan County. They said, but they're available to Gillan County. But yet you just have to go to Wasco County to get them. And to me, that's totally opposite of what should be happening. They should be jumping up and saying, oh, yes, let us come and make sure that those services come into your county.
Thank goodness we had Chris Fitzsimmons, because she was the one that was fighting for that, and it was a fight. There was a lot of behind the scenes stuff going on, and so it shouldn't have been that way, but it was that way.
Speaking of which, Chris, I see that you're on there and unmuted. Did you want to weigh in on anything while we're discussing? Thoughts? Since you've been fighting a lot of these battles?
She's traumatized right now. I spoke to her this morning. Yeah.
I know.
She's also from Canada, so that's easily good, so.
If you push *6, Chris. I mean, there she goes.
I don't think I can say what I want to say in a public meeting, but, very, very frustrating issues. And, one of the most frustrating things I've ever dealt with in my job. And, I don't know what else to say. I think that, the first thing that they probably should have done is, they're telling me that they're getting money for COVID and they're hiring more additional help. And the first thing they should have done is hired somebody and put their butts right, one person in Sherman County and one person in Gilliam County, and that person stayed in Gilliam County and did nothing but do all the groundwork in Gilliam County, and then somebody in Sherman County to do the same thing. I think that that would have been the best move that they made at the very beginning. And so in the meantime, it's kind of got put on my shoulders and then pushed off to the clinics as well. So I think that we potentially just need to move on, and this is a good start for us to look at what we did not get and what we need to do to get something local.
Additional thoughts or questions?
No, I think it's a process we need to go through, absolutely, and see where we're going. It's going to take a lot of work, and we need to get a lot of that.
Yeah,
And I'll help where I can, get what I can out of it.
Right. Yeah.
you're outlining the job description and the things that we need to discover in order to make the decision. I think you're spot on.
Okay.
Yeah.
And like I said, that's we can add, and it's probably changing.
Well, and like Pat alluded to, there's gonna be a lot of data. As we dig into this, I'm sure we're gonna find out, like, this should have been happening, and we'll certainly have to add that, but I think it'll bring up a lot of things in both directions that we weren't aware of.
Yeah, and then, like I said, in order to figure out, how to move forward and compare apples to apples, we'll know what the law says we have to do, and then we'll know what we want. But we need to know what the in-between, what we've been getting, so we have something to compare to. Because of course everyone wants Cadillac services, but we don't know, what we can do until we do the study and get all that information together.
My neighbor seems to be doing well.
Yeah.
Exactly. And we've been talking with them over the years about all of this. So
They have one, how many clinics do they serve?
they just,
3. Oh, you're talking Morrow.
I'm talking Wheeler.
Oh, Wheeler, yeah.
they have one clinic, yeah.
What's that one? In Spring?
They have a travel, yeah.
Okay.
Their staff will go over there, but they're not there staffed.
Yeah, Morrow County has 3, right?
They've got 2, and then one's actually a for-profit that tried to buy the health district until they figured out we were government.
So Erie and Boardman and Hefner?
Boardman is Boardman's that private, the private clinic. So Arian and
And I know Morrow County Public Health does subcontract out to Umatilla County Public Health a lot of the environmental services, so.
And that may be an option that we want to look at.
Well, I think that's gonna be, we don't have anyone qualified to do that, and
yeah, it's gonna happen.
so I think typically that's what they do is sub it out.
And that would benefit us and Umatilla or whoever, because then they get some income and so they can gainfully employ those people.
Mhm.
And then we get the services for
So-
much less.
So how's Weaver County handling that part?
They sub out, so they would be south, they go to Bend, Redmond. I don't know specifically who they sub out to, but Karen had told me that several years ago.
And it could end up at the state level, of course, that's a great.
The state's just a big health department. It's not a good plan.
Well, Loudoun County gave up their health department. They're the only county in the state that does not have public health. The state provides that for them. I mean, we could always ask Loudoun County how they like it. I think they're
Sure.
okay, but I don't know how they fared during the pandemic. I don't know. I know prior to the pandemic, they were happy with having the state run it. I don't know how they felt since then.
Yeah, well, Ben, going through what we've gone through, I'm pretty convinced that we probably could have done it.
We were trying to until they shot us down for things we wanted to do,
Yeah,
so.
yeah.
Well, I don't even know, like in allocations, just because you have 3 counties grouped, if the allocation from the state came fair to them, where they might have been, it might have been a better deal for you to go just on an allocation basis. Because I think that's what happened in Weaver County. They being the smallest in the state, became an advantage in the percentages of vaccines they received when they were getting.
Yeah, and Wheeler County also, besides, having Wheeler County Public Health, but they also are a federally qualified health center. So I think that probably had something to do with the amount of vaccine that they were getting, those combined.
Did they get, do you know if did they get vaccines straight from the federal government? Or did they come to the state?
Yeah, and last time I heard they've probably done 80 or 90 of Gillan County residents.
Yeah, I know.
It's been wonderful of them to reach out. And so, but we do have we have a good partnership with them also.
So in terms of next steps, is there a consensus from the court that you guys would like to move forward with the proposal? Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, I think.
To do a feasibility?
Absolutely.
So in terms of timing, Holly, is this something that you think you can do like in the current fiscal year? Or are you thinking you want to start it next fiscal year, starting in July 1?
Goodness, that's a good question. April, May, it's not budget time.
And I have mentioned this a couple of times because I've talked to Mr. Schwartz. There is some concerns from Wasco County about this. Yeah. Pulled out, I don't know what happened to Wasco County. Pulled out, so.
They could.
Yeah, we could be.
Right, and that happened a few years ago.
And just in the discussions I had, it seemed like they were more upset about past management
Yes.
than they are necessarily current management.
Oh, that seems familiar.
So,
If I can chime in on the time frame before I go too off the rails. I think if we started it this year, we'd run into next year. I don't think we would have enough time.
I don't, yeah, you guys are on the same fiscal years,
Yes.
so realistically, I could start searching for the person and kind of get, a little bit more information. That would give you time to pull some information out. I think realistically, probably after July 1st might be.
But with that, if we could get an authorization to throw some money at searching for it and doing some background, I think that would be helpful because I don't think we want to wait until July. If we can get something now so we can start the process, so July 1, they could be sitting in a chair and working with stuff that we may have already accumulated.
And that also, brings up how you want to proceed with this because you have options. If you want it to be a county employee that works out of the clinic, if you want it to be our employee and we have an agreement, however it's structured. I have money in my budget this year for part-time. So, we're flexible. We can make it work.
My feeling is that I'm thinking that if you guys can you can handle that,
I do too.
that makes more sense, because your staff will know what your internal, you know, we gave you capacity, our person's gonna have to get up to speed on, I think, things that somebody who's already working with them would know. So I'm wondering, I think that makes sense to have one of your folks, yeah, we do that, and if you need to hire an outside consultant, then we would cover the cost of that as well.
Well, yeah, we would have to hire someone right now. I mean, we just don't have the staff. I mean, we have four full-time people and we're open 50 hours.
Yeah.
So, we definitely would have to hire someone. But what I'm getting at is we can start the process now if, you know, you want to wait till the next fiscal year, to put any money into it.
I mean,
I think that's a good idea, so we can get the county that.
And that's totally doable for us. We can just get reimbursed.
and we can do, the thing is we do have a pretty sizable civic discretionary that sits there that we can use for things like this.
Okay.
So, so I guess what I'm looking for is could I get a motion from the commissioners on approving the proposal, approving, basically moving forward? We can figure out which budget year we want to take it out of, but at least that will allow them to kind of be set free on starting it, and then we can figure out if Holly can keep track of the costs, whether they just want to bill us in the current fiscal year. We can decide that as a court if we want to do that, or if we want to have them hold bills until July 1 and do it in the new fiscal year. Does that work for you guys?
How are you guys going to do it?
Yeah, I have what you want to do, so.
Okay.
I think we need to move forward, it's, you know,
Yeah. So
like we said, we've been kicking this around for 8 years.
Yeah.
Let's stop kicking it.
Yeah, so what we would do is we would probably just kind of start the process now. If we're, you guys are okay with that.
I'm okay with that.
Do we need a motion or just a consensus?
If we could have a motion to approve the proposal, and if we want to set any limits to do that, and then otherwise, maybe administratively, Holly and I can just work out the finances if you guys are comfortable with that. Because we can take it from the civic discretionary if you guys are okay with making that expenditure. And then depending on how much Holly wants to carry the cost, for how long, we can either reimburse you as you go, or July 1 we go lump sum, or however we want.
So is that, sounds like carrying the cost or something?
Well, I think, the way the judge is saying it, always doing it, and she said she had money.
I definitely want to not see the north side, south side, I simply want to see Gillan County.
Well, and
We're moving forward.
I want to make sure that the north end is very involved in it. And I've got a board meeting coming up on Monday. So I figure once you guys give the go ahead, Holly and I can talk on the way out, and I'll figure out an amount that we can talk to my board about. I don't think it'll be an issue. But yeah, I was done talking. You can stop.
And those costs are really depending on a large part of who we can find to fill this position, because if it's someone who needs a lot of guidance, and that's why I put the provider amount in there, is because our providers are very involved with this. But if we hire a really great person who maybe is going to be consulting with them, that of course that takes away from patient visits and revenue from the clinic. That's why that's in there.
Yeah.
But if we hire someone that has maybe a little bit of background that is not going to need that, we're not going to have that expense. So it just depends.
Let's move forward with, nobody's spending money right now, so this power, we will kick it off.
Yeah.
Okay, so do we have a motion to approve the proposal
I move to approve the proposal for a feasibility study for Gillan County to conduct public health services from within Gillan County and the funding to be negotiated through the county and the health district.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the proposal for a feasibility study for Gillan County to conduct public health services from within Gillan County with the funding to be negotiated between the county and health districts. Is there further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Okay, so for follow-up, I think what we'll do probably is, and Dave, is we'll just figure out if you guys are, once you hear from your board, and just, I think we can figure out where we need to take it out this fiscal year or next.
Okay.
Depending on how much funding you want to carry for how long.
Perfect.
But,
And then you guys will try to get some kind of reporting. I mean, you'd think there'd be something in place already. And like I said, it's really pre-COVID that we're looking for.
Yeah, I would, suggest to Danny to push too.
Mm-hmm.
Board and I'll push.
Yeah. Yeah, I just figure since Gillan County Court writes that check that they should be accountable to you. So, I mean, I'm happy to ask again.
They don't like us after a while. They don't have to like you guys. You guys are the counts.
Thank you. Thanks, guys.
We're just not.
Okay, let's go forward into 7.2. Consider approval of non-type solar road use agreements. And do you have this one?
Not really, just kind of thrown out, but, there was a question about whether legal need to look at that or not.
Well, legal hasn't this.
The agreement.
Has this, do we know, is this kind of a standard one that Dewey is used?
Yes, I'm sure I'm sure it is. And I'm comfortable with what he's doing because basically, they have to get his sign off at the end of the day. The roads are in the shape that he wants them in. And it's in the agreement.
So we could do it two ways. If the court wants to move forward today, you could approve it as is and not have it go to council. Or you could make a motion to approve it pending legal review, which just means that as soon as our council says it's good, it's done and I can sign it. And so either way, you could do that, depending on how you want to.
Yeah, I know that, I've had a few conversations 2 weeks with different personnel from Avenue Ridge, because there's been a couple of managers I met last week in town, one was supposed to be managing the project, and there's a lot of boxes that aren't checked for them to move forward. I think we finally did, just got the conditional use permit taken care of, but that was one of them. But I don't even know where this is gonna go. They're up against a deadline. They're trying to push forward with it, but they don't have a contractor.
That's what I was told too.
And the contractor that they thought they were gonna use when working in Clinton County was the first time renewable project for them. They pretty much messed it up every place they can mess it up. The second one's out of date. And so they've gone back to Evergreen and told them they need an extra 14 million to do this project. And so there's some concerns that the gentleman I talked to the other day said this about corporate middle to do with it. But the problem is if you don't move forward with all this stuff as fast as possible, we'll never make a deadline. We talked about the purchase power agreement. The problem with the purchase power agreement is they don't make the deadline, it's just gonna go away.
That's the one with PGE.
It will just go away. If they don't get there with this, it'll become obsolete. So, it's just a real mess right now. So, I mean, we need to try, I guess probably as a partner for somebody coming into our county with a project like this, we need to do what we can to move forward as quickly as possible for them and hope that they keep moving forward and that the 14 million doesn't turn the whole thing upside down.
I mean, I'm comfortable with approving it. I think the question just for the court is whether you would, I mean, we can make a motion today. I'm just wondering if you want us to send it to legal before we sign it, or if you're comfortable just as is.
Well, I think that it's probably pretty standard for anything we've ever used before, so it's agreement, and these are not common.
Problems with any others.
Right, and it's, I mean, he's had multiple road use agreements during all these projects, so I would move to approve the road use agreement between Montag Solar LLC and Gillan County, upon approval from our legal counsel, and do let them look at it, but.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the road use agreement between Montag Solar LLC and Gillan County upon review of legal counsel. Is there further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, let's send that to Christy.
Okay.
Teresa. And tell her that it's approved so that she turns it around quickly. All right, let's go into 7.3, which is discuss competitive grant application process. Pat, do you want to kick us off?
Where were we at?
For 7.3. 7.3. How does it grant application process? Mr. Haynes.
I think that I would like to hear.
Or you can kick it off, or you can kick it over to somebody else if you want.
I would like to hear this. I just personally, being new on the court, I just started looking into the grants and kind of getting an understanding of what's going on. I understand that they're having some revision with the last new court, and I get a lot of complaints around the county about the process, and so Brandon had called me and talked to me a couple of times, and so I think I'd like to hear from him first.
Okay. You want to come on around?
First of all, thank you. I don't know if you've noticed that the signs are going up. That was the last thing that we wrote. It was supposed to start at the city, but they're up at the school. So we'll get those new reader boards. Yeah. The main thing that being new to the county, new to the district, we've had conversations about the grant process, and I've heard, and from what I gather is there really was an accountability piece. That was the initial drive, why they needed to do revisions, which I absolutely support. Having been involved in something like this with an entity supplying, school funds, accountability is huge. And I also know the whole point of it is to build up the county and make it a better livable place, better education. I'm in the concept of, I don't know if the whole Field of Dreams, before COVID hit, they were actually going to do Major League Baseball games at the Field of Dreams site. Anyway, that whole idea of if you build it, they will come. And that is my mentality when we do the grant proposals. And I've just been looking into the concept of it. And as a district, our funding goes 80% staffing, 20% facilities. Well, a lot of the grants that we receive goes to that 20% piece, which is great. Our buildings are old. From what I understand, we'll never pass a bond in the area. That's something that's not feasible. So the money is awesome, but I'm missing this 80% chunk of staffing. We only have, our dollars are directly related to how many students we have based on disability or, special needs, anything like that. And it's just limited. And I do believe that if I can, and we've talked about this, create different programs with a set stream, then I think I can get more buy-in. I think I can get more pull-in from board, and I think we can get more kids to come here because of the programs that we have established. And that's why I want to relook at how the process is. And it's not even a grant application. I'm really looking for as a school district, this is what you get. I am absolutely for the accountability piece. I will lay it out. This is what we're gonna do. I'm not gonna go outside of that, but I think, and I'm not speaking for Michelle at all, but I think as a district, knowing that I have these set funds and that I'm budgeted with those set funds, I can look forward to, okay, I can do this. I can make these accommodations. I could hire this person. We can create this program. And all of this is just a discussion. Again, very new to the process, but just from what I've seen, our funds are limited, and having more of a like simplistic form, I guess, as a district, I believe would help.
So are you thinking more along, so I'm clear, less the issue of the capital improvements, which are the building and upgrades, and more looking at the county supporting, bringing additional programs? Is that, am I catching your?
Yeah, I mean, and I would do both. It really is the freedom of saying, okay, like this year, I need to put more for the track. This year, no, we're budgeting, I want to create a different program. We want to look at it. And our funding right now, so from the state, we have these SIA funds, which is the corporate tax, and those fluctuate all the time. Who knows what's going to happen in the future? So as a district, I'm constantly, maybe I have it, maybe I don't. So being flexible is what my job is. I need to account for that. But I know that the revenue is not always going to be there. I'm not sure what the SIP agreement is, the longevity is this 30 years, is it down to 20? I'm not sure, but I do believe having a set amount that I know is coming will help with whether it's going to be a program, whether it's going to be a facility, but just having a little more freedom of what I can do with this.
I think when you look at the SIP agreements, the concern is that we have several that are going
Correct.
to 4 or 5 years. Mm-hmm. We have one that just started, and it didn't make up for the ones that didn't, and then basically we don't get to evaluate the value of the projects that will be assessed, revenue, what that's going to be, but then it comes back and we allocate it to the tax districts. And maybe a little up on the percent, but I think right now in the 6 agreements, the county's getting like 68%. Is that correct? Or would that be? And then when the 6 agreement falls out and whatever they're valued at, the county will get about 17% over their general fund. The real question I understand is how flexible are we going to be with once it goes into the general fund? That piece. And my concern is economic development and how we continue economic development to, the stuff we need to do that, really, for long term, is how you build a tax base. Sustainable.
So what I understood that you were asking for when we had our conversation was, a certain amount of money allocated specifically to each school district.
Correct.
Outside the grant.
Correct.
Program entirely, so, it would be maybe in the budget itself, it says this line item is every year, $200,000 goes to each school district. Yeah. And that's what you were asking to have us consider.
No, and that is, and I know it's going to fluctuate within several districts, and this is not comparison, but from other districts and other superintendents that I've spoken with, it just makes it simple, and it is more of a like a budgetary item. It really does. Now, however you guys said it, that I will take. I'm just grateful for everything that we get. But
so is that something that Borough County does within their budget?
Correct.
And Sherman.
That's correct.
Sherman and Morrow.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Sherman is more of the SIP. Morrow County has a CREZ Foundation, so that's with the port, but then they are having the SIP come in with the windmills, and they've already allocated specifically $1 million to the schools for STEM. So, but again, it's not, and when I was talking to one of the superintendents, they had a conversation, and they said, okay, we're gonna have these funds come in, what can you not cover within your regular budget, and so they just talked about that. So it was very open, but.
So I have a couple of potential concerns. Not that I don't want to provide support to the schools, but one of the reasons that we went down this path was that we had a lot of organizations in this county who were reliant on those SIP monies to keep their doors open and to employ people. And there was not a lot of conversation about what happens when the SIP money goes away. So, because we have preschools, we have a health district that's taken money from us. I mean, we've got a considerable, I think, this year's grant committee, we're spending, I think, we have requests out for about $600,000 in operational funds for organizations within the county that if you don't provide that, will close their doors, is what they're telling us. So my concern is creating a situation where our school districts are employing people using county funds at the sunset. And if there isn't sustainability built into that, yeah, it's great, we'll have the program for 3 to 5 years, and then those SIPs roll off, and we're not sure how much tax revenue is going to come, but I can tell you that right now we're using that money to help fund the library, to balance the county's general fund budget, because we're overspending. Right now, we're not living within our means even from the county's perspective. The SIPs are helping us to balance our budget. And so I'm not sure when that revenue comes in that we're going to have the flexibility to actually be able to use that revenue on outside sources. We may need it to keep the library open. I say that because our library director is here, and to balance the county's budget, to keep our folks employed. So this is my concern, is that I worry that we're building a system that's not sustainable long-term, that we're setting ourselves up when that happens and the dominoes start falling, that it will be the county's fault that everybody's closing their doors because we didn't insist that people be sustainable in building their programs. And then the other concern, because I sit at the desk where lots of people are coming in asking for money, if we do this for them, every health district, every cemetery, I mean, everybody's gonna line up behind them and say, because everybody has that budget concern. I mean, Summit Springs will come in and say, yes, it would be wonderful to know that we're gonna get this every year. But part of the reason that we instituted this was the idea that the county can't float for every other institution within the county their budgets. I mean, we built a system that currently is going to be unsustainable if we continue on the path that we're going down. And so it's not that I would love, if I had a guarantee, I would love to be able to say to all of the people that we fund, you can count on this money. But the problem is we don't know enough to be able to make that guarantee. And I don't want to set you guys up for a situation where you have to make huge cuts because you've relied on us. Because we already are seeing that. I mean, if you look at our preschools and our kindergartens, they literally keep their doors open because we fund them. And I'm worried about what happens when we don't have that kind of funding. I mean, we've had a good stretch. Like for a little county, I always tell people like we punch way above our weight in terms of how much money we bring in. But we know even when waste management contract comes up every 10, 20 years, there's that fear of what happens when that goes away. And unfortunately, like a lot of our systems are built and count on funds that we have taken for granted will always be there and that may not be there down the road. So that's what I have to say about that.
No, and those are valid, absolutely. And as an educational district, that we deal with that all the time because we don't know what state income is going to come. This next biennium is just totally up in the air. They're saying, that we're going to be $1 billion shortfall with it, but then the federal government's coming in. Just so happens that we're going to get about $1 billion from the last COVID package. But how long will that really be sustainable? The whole SIA funds, when we talk about the corporate tax, it's supposed to be about giving us our district $170,000, something like that. When we budget, we do not budget 170, we go down. And so being flexible, that's my job, is like as the superintendent, is to make those headways, is to plan ahead a little bit. And having a little sustainable right now, I can make those budget adjustments here and there to keep the staff going. And again, I really do believe that as we have those solid programs, do something a little different that we generally wouldn't be able to offer, I think it brings in more students, it brings in more families, which then again is our sustainability. And it's a difficult road because you bring up a good point, but that's, I mean, the funding of education, that's just how we are with the personnel.
So one thing though, that, because I hear that like having a commitment, a longer term commitment. So one thing that we could look at or be open to is, so say that Brandon had a program that he wants funding for 3 years, that we consider in our grant agreement, providing some flexibility to be able to have the court make a commitment, still have them do the application. I still think that's important to have the public have eyes on how we're spending this money, and have it be competitive, honestly, because I think we should be funding the best ideas, and having people submit applications and have to think about how they're going to make things sustainable long term. I think that's important. But maybe something that we could look at doing is revamping slightly the program so that we could perhaps make commitments that are longer than just that current fiscal year. So if you were coming in and saying, hey, I would really like to do over the next 3 years STEM education here, will you fund that? Then you would still submit your grant application, but the court could potentially say, yes, we will fund it and we will commit to a grant for the next 3 years, which would provide new funding. You still have to go through the process, which helps me on the accountability and sustainability side. But it would allow then some more certainty on your end. And then that also allows us to be forecasting how much SIP money is coming in so that we're not making promises that we can't keep as those SIPs start to roll off. So I don't know what you guys think about that as a potential
Just
solution.
a couple of thoughts on what you said, and I guess this is just what I think about it in the future. And it's really unknown for a lot of reasons, but one thing I think we can bank on is that at least the taxing districts on the north end are going to get healthier. Such a big small, they're going to get, these will be assessed and get more money that actually goes into those taxing districts. The county will not have the flexibility they got today. That is something that, unless with the push for renewable energy and a whole different set of revenue possibilities coming, especially in rural areas, which is a real possibility. We just don't know where we're going to get when we start trickling off. And my thought process is always, how do we figure out how to grow the county and use that stuff so that I don't like just saving it and not getting it invested in something that is going to move us forward in the future. And I don't like the theory that, well, if it's going to run out, we got to hang on to it so we can make this extend as long as we can so that we don't fall off the cliff here, we'll wait for fall here. And it's so unknown on where everything is and how you plan for that, but I like the idea that you can at least extend what we do know. We do know when a SIP funds are going to drop off. We can forecast how long that is going to hit. And kind of where that's at, just don't know what we can bring in.
And then would that still include the 30% matching?
And I don't know more than, that's the part of the grant process that I'm going to have to learn is we didn't have matches before, and they didn't put in the new process. And then there's, from the county perspective, livability and building a tax base, there's a whole set of, if I put money here, they're not sustainable. They have to get sustainable, and yet sometimes when we put money here, there's a whole lot of stuff in the background that feeds back. We can't give you a good example, but, you know, there's a lot of, by investing in something that isn't sustainable, it doesn't mean that it's not a good investment for the county through, you know, tourism or whatever, there's other things. So it's a bigger picture than just looking at each and everything separately.
Well, and the matching funds, the whole idea, correct me if I'm wrong, the whole idea behind the matching funds was to ensure that people were going out and exploring all the possibilities for funding and not just relying on the county for the funds to make their projects.
So if they, I guess in the grant process we've got going on now, so if they can't come up with matching, they're just.
less money.
They would get less money, yeah. Yeah, but I mean, sort of I think at the time, the way that I sort of shared it was, we used the new preschool in Condon as the example, which is the county invested, I think I'd have to ask Jennifer Gould how much they actually ended up investing. But that building is well over $1 million. The county could have paid for that outright. But instead, the county said, you need to go raise the money, basically. And so this building, the county ended up investing like $100,000 in. She went out and chased the money. And so I think the point was, we know that there's a finite amount of resources that we have available. So even though we can fund the building outright, if as an example, if Brandon says, if Brandon only needs the county to fund half of it, that allows me to take the other $500,000 and build the second building that I need to do. So I think the idea was we can stretch it farther by pushing the folks who are asking for money to go out and chase, because there are resources out there. And so just because we can fund it internally doesn't make sense long-term if there are other resources out there and it just requires our folks to go chase money. The point is to be able to leverage what we have to get the biggest bang for our buck. And I think that's the reason behind the matching funds, and especially on the capital side, because you'll notice there are different amounts for each of the grants. And so operational, I think when we set that, we were cognizant that was going to be a challenge for some of our entities that are taking it for operational. For capital, we felt like, particularly those who are typically have the capital, that the school districts were able to come up with that match fairly consistently. Since we're allowing in kind, we're allowing all kinds of things to go towards it. The idea that people would leverage that. And that's what, frankly, I mean, we see some of the entities that we're funding for their larger capital, they're much more aggressive about going out and finding outside funds because we require that as a precondition to even being able to access this money. And what that means is there's more money than to spread around to the next person who has the next great project. So that's the trade-off is, it would definitely make your life easier, but the person who's coming behind you, we may not have enough money to fund them if we fully fund your project. And if you leave money on the table because we're the easy money, then we're missing out on additional investments that we could be making.
The difficulty of the personnel funding is generally most of the grants won't fund personnel. I think that's where, when I checked around, that's why they were just given that they could do the programs, because most of the programs take a person. That's the biggest hit. That's why it's 80-20. But there is an adjustment on the 15%. But again, it is difficult in finding grants that will help fund like personnel costs. Generally, that's not the case. No, and that's why I brought this up, to have the discussion of it, just to see my perspective again, brand new, coming, just sharing, what I have seen taking place. But other than that, it's been amazing what we've been able to do, the facilities, the improvement, and what it will do. I'm just hoping, again, for the flexibility of it, to look for more program, which in turn, it really is personnel. It's basically what you do. It's hire people, which costs a lot more than it does things. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Commissioner, what do you think about the idea of looking at providing an opportunity for say an application that came in this year, but maybe there's a 3-year commitment and sort of allowing that as a potential option for folks so that.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea. I guess some of my questions, like I said, not being up to speed of where we're actually in the detail of the grants themselves. They obviously all go to nonprofits, and that doesn't necessarily do much for economic development. You know, it's more livability, I would say, than it is economic development. Do you agree with that?
Yeah.
So just utilizing funds in general to do economic development is another subject, but that's one I want to have at some point. It's how do you really do some substantial economic development that means something, and all this stuff falls into obviously with the schools. And the more kids we can get to live here, the more you're going to have in the school system. The more money you get.
Oh, it is. Yeah, it does.
So it's a really big subject all the way around, but I guess I struggle some with, you know, are we really putting our money where we need to grow the county the way it's.
No, yep, and that's why you guys are gonna, that's your job, that's the fun that you get to have. But again,
The hardest part of the job.
Yeah.
is to decide
the simplicity side, when we talk about those funds and not being able to have, that's what we started having those conversations in other areas. It just makes it more simple. Like, okay, we know that you guys, you can count on this and you have that, then we know all the funds that we have available. I mean, when you have a set amount, it really makes it more simple because yes, this is where it's going. Other people can apply. We know how much we have left. It's just from what I've seen.
Thank you so much.
Thank you,
I
guys.
appreciate it.
Oh, so noise break tonight, 6 o'clock,
It was great at 6 o'clock.
bonfire.
I'll be standing at my door. My dog will be cowering.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Brandon. See you tomorrow?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, no.
No, you can't come tomorrow? Oh, darn. Okay, I'll cheer for you.
So commissioners, is there any follow-up that you would like me or staff to do on this? Do you want to explore? It sounds from Brandon's perspective like it was maybe more of a personnel side, and which would be our operational rather than our capital investment, which we only open once a year. So we have some time, I think. But I don't know if you guys want.
Well, I think we need to spend some time with Kathleen. Maybe you could, you know, we have meetings where we talk about what the grant applications look like, but nobody comes and talks to us about it. They talk to you on the street, but they don't come to the meeting and say, hey,
Well, and
this
one
isn't
thing, one
working
of the
for us.
just on the street complaints I get is it's a final cutoff, you done, you know, just come talk. If there's a reason to turn down, there's no feedback on why, back and forth, so that.
Okay, that's good to know.
Huh?
That's good to know. I haven't heard that.
And it hasn't been an option, in my understanding of what the grant process is at this point. They don't get to come back in and say, hey, we need to explain this and understand a little better or whatever. And I don't know, you know, I should agree with this.
Yeah.
Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
If there's a complaint that we just get shut off and we're done, and court doesn't care.
Okay, well, that's good to know.
I mean, I will say, part of the reason that it's structured that way is because sitting on this side of the table, I think what we were trying to avoid is whoever shows up gets the money. Because that has happened in the past where people just show up and on this side, it's hard to say no in the moment. And it's easier when you're sitting with the budget committee after the committee has looked at them all, made recommendations. You're able to compare apples to apples and not have the people whose jobs are hanging in the balance sitting on the other side of the table. and maybe having preferential treatment because they were the ones that happened to be able to take off work to come pitch the court. And then the other piece too, that we structured it the way we did was so that the court, previously before Sherry and I took office, the court was constantly being asked to fund things year round. People were coming in with their good ideas and there was no opportunity for the court members to say, which is the best investment? And to really require our folks that they do their due diligence before they come ask for public money. And so part of sort of having application periods, consistent applications, a very thorough review process. I mean, keep in mind, like 9 people review these applications before they're funded every year. Because there's an internal review that happens, the full budget committee, which is six of us, look at every single one. And those are public meetings is the other thing. And so part of it is if people didn't come to answer questions, it's because they didn't come to the public meeting when we decided what we were going to fund. But I'm not comfortable with the idea that because you are told no, that you get to come take bites out of the apple over and over again. And that has happened before where the budget committee has said no. People have come back to the court and asked the court to overrule what the budget committee said. And we've got some hardworking lay people who serve on that budget committee who frankly, I think felt like, why am I wasting my time on the budget committee if the court's just going to do what it wants anyway down the road? So I think there's another side, I guess is what I'm saying. And I would just not want us to unwind what I think is a good program because people would always prefer that we provide funds with as few strings as possible. I understand that. That doesn't mean that that's a good policy for us to have here. We give out a lot of money. And asking somebody to fill out a 4-page application for the $3 million that we give out every year, I don't think it's too much to ask. So that's nice. I feel pretty passionate about it.
Obviously, I just think that a chance for to answer a question, that the one time back to answer a question and tell them no, and this is why, or they get. And maybe that should just be done in public meetings, I'm not sure. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. Teddy.
I thought that there was the process when somebody's looking at it to make sure it's a thorough application. So if they have questions, there is a spot right there where somebody can call and say, oh gosh, you forgot this piece, or I don't understand this, can you explain it? So that's a little bit of an opportunity for somebody to come back and say, this is our view on it and why.
But is there a process whereas they've received their letter that says, we're not going to fund you, and is there an answer? When they ask the question.
The deadline is over by then, and it's just a done deal, I think is really what. By the time we find out they didn't get it.
I think the way we've treated, typically what we're turning down is usually the capital investment projects. And I think one of the reasons that we've been comfortable doing that is because we allow those applications twice a year. So what we do is we go back to the people and we say, this is where this is deficient. If you want the county to fund it, you're going to need to come back in the fall, usually, and you need to fill in these gaps. But I will say, if we were the Ford Family Foundation, they don't sit around asking whether this is convenient for us to give them money, and what kind of documentation people should provide. I mean, there isn't an appeal if you're asking for any other funder. And not that I don't want to be, as thorough as we can be as the court when we're making decisions. I mean, part of it is, as county commissioners, we need to do our due diligence before we make those funding decisions. So when we get them 4 weeks before the budget committee, it's incumbent upon us to read the application and to go ask that person questions if we think we're not going to fund them. that's on us to do that up front. But I don't like the idea that if after we've done our due diligence, we say, no, we're not gonna fund it, that we still open up the door for appeal after appeal after appeal.
Well,
Because
again, I'm not in agreement with that either. I just, and like I said, I don't know the process that well to really weigh in, on the details, but I do know that there's some, and maybe it's because it was easier to get before, no, it's easier to get now.
I think that's the
There is-
big part of it.
Well, there's definitely some dissatisfaction. There's no question.
Well, and those people that are coming back time and time again asking for money for the same thing over and over again, I think that's been sort of a problem as well. Teresa?
I just wanted to clarify for Commissioner Shannon, and Kelly is online, she can correct me if I'm wrong, to get on with what Teddy said. I mean, the application is received, Kelly reviews the application and make sure all the correct paperwork for the application is there. Then it goes to the grant review committee. There's 3 of us that review them separately, and then we get together and we talk about our opinions. And then if we need something, we can go back to Kelly, she can ask for them, and then it goes to the budget committee, which is an open hearing, and the people can come if they are that concerned about whether or not they're going to be funded. That's their opportunity. So they have quite a few, in my opinion, places to go through the whole process. Just for your clarification, Commissioner.
Thank you.
Okay, anything else on this one? Have we beaten the horse?
I thought
The dead horse.
Loved it.
Okay, but what we do, Commissioner Shannon, is every year we do perform a review of the grant committee, of the grant process. And so usually that'll happen kind of fall timeframe so that we can get ready for January, February to release it. And so I think we'll just plan on doing another, since we've got new court members, I think we can plan on getting that on the schedule,
Sure.
opening it back up and telling those folks who are complaining, come be part of the process.
Tell us what's wrong.
Come tell us how to improve it. Understanding though that I think, I'm only speaking for myself, but I feel very strongly that the days of the county just writing a blank check should be over.
Yeah, I totally agree.
So, I guess I was a little, uncomfortable with, well, just, and you can justify yourself here on the health department. And they've got funds, and why they can't move ahead with the feasibility study, and they have to keep going back over and pull discretionary funds. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I mean, it's a little of the same thing as I felt like, at least, from what's been communicated to me, that there's some funds available for them to do the feasibility study. They're the ones that want to do this. Primarily the ones who are pushing for this. So.
Yeah, I mean, I approached it a little bit differently because public health is the county board's responsibility.
Yeah.
We delegated it to North Central Public Health, and so it's, to me, it's not them coming to us and saying, hey, we want to create a new program. We're responsible for it. So I guess that's how I viewed it a little bit differently than, say, an outside person coming to us and saying, here's a project that I want you to fund.
Yeah, and that's how I felt about it too, is we did ask them to come back to us with for a feasibility study, and public health would be our responsibility, not theirs.
But they were the ones that kind of initiated the
They
concern.
did, because
And don't
I
they
wasn't
have
aware that
tax,
was,
don't they have
that-
tax dollars, and I don't know how they spend their tax dollars.
but then public health isn't their responsibility, it's ours. And if we want a feasibility study, then we should pay for that.
Yeah,
I don't know that I completely agree that they shouldn't.
Okay.
Well, maybe some of
You've
them will
been
learn a little bit. Okay, anything further on this one? All right, let's move into, yeah, this was a good one. Let's go into staff reports.
Can we take a 3-minute break before staff?
Yes.
For 67-year-old people.
I think we can.
Thank you. Oh my gosh, I wish it would not.
So here's a recording. Okay, So what we're gonna do, is I'm gonna go ahead and move 7.5 up ahead of staff reports. Then we're gonna do a quick break for lunch, then we'll go into staff reports, and then we'll wrap the meeting. So I'd like to go to 7.5, which is consider request for Mormon cricket control funding. And, as overview, the county has, for the last several years now, been providing the funding for OSU and April and sort of that Mormon cricket team. I think it was the name of your effort.
I'm losing my memory, so that's why I wanted to talk to you about.
But the county has provided the funding for the spray and the pilot to be able to distribute spray, the aerial application. And so Jordan Gilliam reached out again, asking if we will go ahead and fund it for this spring. And I think COVID has disrupted some of the supply for the chemical, and so we wanted a quicker response so that we can make sure we can build that into the time frame for them to be able to take care of that. Jordan takes care of collecting the bids, so that we're in compliance for the auditors, and then we've been doing it on a reimbursable basis. So they just go ahead and bill us directly. And historically, we've taken it out of the SIP discretionary fund, where Zoom came from. And then I think when the budget committee meets for this coming year, we're going to talk about actually moving the line items so that we don't have to take it out. But anyway, that's sort of where we are, and I think April, you.
So I do have a couple things. So this is a volunteer
Do
position.
you want to come up to
Yes.
it so that Dee can see you?
So it's volunteer for me, but, and I had two people that were helping me. One has health issues and the other is not able to do it any longer. I also have health issues now, and Paul Blom, who is the person that helps us from the Department of Ag, he is retiring at the end of May. So it's going to be like a whole new set of people. Jordan is able to come down to this end of the county and get approval for that this year, where he hasn't had that, and he didn't have that last year because of COVID. He had to stay in one spot. So he's been helping with some of the studies that have been taking place for I call him the Mormon cricket guru out of Montana. And so, but I'm not going to be able to spend as much time on it this year, if at all. I have Fridays, that's it, you know. So what is worrisome to me is trying to find somebody that would actually take that place to do that. And because you have to be a little bit tech savvy, because you are, you know, you have to send in all the coordinates and everything so that they can map everything. So when your pilot flies, he knows exactly where he's going and where the crickets are located. It's a lot of walking. It's a lot of talking with people within the community, communication. If people are upset, who are they going to call? It's not the most thrilling volunteer position in the world. And, but I mean, you know, I've always enjoyed it. So I would love to be more help, but I'm afraid in the future that I won't be able to because I got to take care of me first. So that might be consideration. I don't know if we're going to try and skim by this year, but that might be consideration for next year.
Okay.
That even hiring somebody maybe part-time that is willing to make those connections with farmers in the area to make the because I have also I have to take safety training from every windmill facility every single year. So we'd all have to go in and sit down and do our safety training, and so that we can even be on the site to begin with. So it is a lot of time. I wrote it down once, but I can't exactly remember what it was, but it was quite a bit. So anyway, I just think that maybe next year that it would be a good idea if they could actually hire somebody to do that position. Or at least some money to go towards getting someone. I don't know if Jordan will do that through the extension office or how that will work.
Seems like it'd be a better fit.
Yeah.
Right, but I think they'll have to have somebody to do that. It's just too much time.
So do you have any feeling of where we're at in 2021?
Well, I was really hoping that they would be gone last year. And my nephew just sent me a picture in October. Was it October that he sent it to me? Anyway, of a water trough up on top of here on Ray Road, and it was this full of cricket bodies. So they were really thick over on 8 Mile.
People
Pretty-
are involuntarily shuddering.
So they were pretty thick in, on 8 Mile now. They are. Tina and Jimbo Weezer fought them. Good thing they had chickens, but they fought them a lot, last year. And then, up above on top of Ray Road. So I think they're moving towards, I don't know. I mean, I can't say this for sure. I'm
Towards
guessing.
Morrow County.
Moving towards Morrow County. But,
We're
yes.
down to shoot across the.
Yeah.
They're not welcome here, so they're packing up.
So, we didn't have as many, like, say, on Philippi's land where they would move then into town. We sprayed out there, but we didn't have as nearly what we've had in the past. So I'm hoping that they're cycling out, because you only usually have them like for 6 to 8 years, and then it cycles out. So I'm hoping that's what's gonna happen. So when I say, maybe you should think about hiring somebody next year, well, let's hope we don't even have any, but we don't know, we'll never know that, unfortunately. So we're still doing, they put in pitfalls. We're still, which pitfalls are, little tubes that we put in the ground, and by some of the egg sacs that we've sat out so that we can see when they're hatching. They'll fall in there, and cap them off and send them to Montana for study. And, so at least we're able to kind of see when but I'm sure they've already started hatching last week, I'm sure, if not before. So you just can't see those little suckers yet.
Questions for April?
But I mean, I'll be more than willing to help somebody learn, kind of where to go, what to do, who to call, and those types of contacts. But I just don't know, I can't do as much.
How much, do you think the grazing on the west side of town?
With the goats? Tremendously.
So,
Tremendously. I think it should happen every single year. But I don't know if that goat guy's in business anymore. It's kind of hard to find goats. And especially as inexpensive as he was. So I know that there is some out of Vancouver. I looked up a lady over in Vancouver. So I think there might be some more out there, but I'm not positive if they're willing to come this far or not.
Maybe get some 4-H kids.
There's some goats.
Yeah. But it did help tremendously.
I think it was, for protecting Arlington, it was a huge deal.
Mm-hmm. And you're kind of killing two birds with one stone because of your fire hazard.
Right.
So that made a big difference. Now, I'm hoping that they aren't circling around and coming back down by the A and then hit our community again. We don't know that. But there is a lot up on Ray Road. Quite a few. I wouldn't say like in the numbers that we had that first year by any means, but enough to definitely make everybody really unhappy and it'd be a huge nuisance.
Yeah, no fun.
So I see the Times Journal on here, so Steve, We need you to put out a call for Mormon cricket volunteers. Maybe you can connect with April and do a story on it, on what they're doing this year. And he's probably not listening, but if you hear me, maybe we need volunteers on that piece. So there's a story idea for you. More questions for April, or are we ready to make a motion?
Just want to tell you how much we appreciate what you have done.
Oh, thank you.
I know it's been a lot of work.
It's a lot of work, but you know, I love my community.
You and volunteers have been diligent.
Now you can just be the field marshal. You can tell everyone where to go.
Oh, yeah. I'm not very good. I'm not very good at delegating, but I'll try.
So this was a request for, was it 107,000?
105, 360 for materials and spraying. And we do it, we've historically done it on a reimbursable basis. So whoever ends up being the pilot sends us the bill and we pay it directly rather than going through OSU.
Do you know how much was spent last year? I mean, could you tell me that figure? Probably couldn't.
Not off the top of my head, but I have Kelly here, so if she hears us, she might be able to look it up for us. Kelly just dropped off. Never mind.
I don't blame her.
She was like, I'm going to lunch, but then I was going to find this.
But that was just, I just wondered how much, because I know that there will be some things that we had previously from other years that we don't have this year that we'll have to purchase, so. Like, big.
Well, I move to approve funding in the amount of up to $105,360 for materials and aerial spraying costs needed for Mormon cricket control efforts. Funds to be distributed on either a reimbursable or direct invoicing basis from the SIP discretionary line item 235-100-550-5120.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve funding in the amount of up to $105,360 for materials and aerial spraying costs needed for Mormon cricket control efforts. The funds to be distributed either on a reimbursable or direct invoicing basis from the SIP discretionary line item 235-100-550-5120. It's there for the discussion. All those in favor? Aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay.
Thank you, April.
So we are going to go ahead and take a 20-minute. Okay, unmuted. Okay, it is 12:34 and we are back in session. Let's go right into staff reports. We have Lisa, why don't you kick us off?
Okay, Commissioners, last meeting we had all staff present their reports, and this meeting we have the other board departments presenting their reports. So today we have, at first, we're going to do 2 by 2 just to keep social distance going. So at first we have Family Services, Kenny Fallon, Senior Services, Sabrina, and they'll cycle out, and coming in behind them will be our Gillan Library Director and Planning Department Director. So I'm going to share my screen for those following along. So on the, take them in long or take them in.
You can take them on.
Yes, let me, hopefully, you can all see that. Excellent. So we will go on to our first slide for Family Services Department, starting with the Frontier Veggie Arts from my Frontier Veggie Arts is the first one.
Commissioners, do you guys have any questions on Kenny's briefing?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. The OYCC, is that, who does the, litter control?
No,
No.
it's the Oregon Youth Conservation Corps, and we hire a certain number of youth, usually it's 4 or 5, and a crew leader, and they do different projects. A lot of times we go out to the
state park and do trail building or putting up stuff, and now, not that they've never done, litter patrol, but, that's not really it. That's through ODOT, through the state highway. Thank you. Any other questions that I can?
We'll probably interrupt you as you go through. Take your lead.
So I guess, excuse me, the local community advisory council is the LCAC, and that is,
They need to mention the GRX first, see what is happening.
I'm sorry. There we go. Okay. So starting with the Frontier VeggieRx program. So that is the program that the LCAC, Community Advisory Council, sorry, I'll try and talk up. So the local Community Advisory Council, we fund this program through our LCAC, and the program is essentially, it's a prescription for families to get fresh fruits and vegetables. And so we prescribe to them. If they screen positive, they have to go through a process, and once the family screens positive, then we prescribe them this prescription, basically. And it is a $30 booklet of coupons in $2 increments for fresh fruits and vegetables. And the Arlington Thrifty Market participates in Arlington and then Two Boys does in Condon. And each household can get up to 2 booklets if they have, you know, at least 2 people in their household or more, but if they have more, they can still only get the 2 booklets. And it is on a monthly basis. And so due to COVID, we ended up just mailing everybody's out to them. Before that, oftentimes people would just contact me and say, I'm ready to pick them up. Can I come to your office? Or we try and just hand them out with anything else that we were doing. But now it's all done by mailing. So they go out in the mail, hopefully around the last day of the month. And so then, whether it's the first day, second day, however the mail takes to get out to everybody. So, and it's to identify and support the families who are food insecure in our community. Does anybody have questions about that?
Just 2 points. One, it's obviously with COVID, we've had an uptick in people
Yes.
who are interested, and so the county has used some of our CARE Act allocation to help backfill some of that need. So I just wanted to flag that. And the second thing, just for folks who may not qualify for the program itself, is just, I think the thing that I appreciate about it is the fact that it's driving demand for local fruits and vegetables benefits all of us. Yes. So it allows both stores and both communities to be able to carry a wider variety of things, because they can guarantee that that $30,000 is going to be spent locally, and that allows them, for the rest of us who may not be using the program, to have more selection. So I appreciate that not just the families that are getting the prescriptions, but everybody shopping at those stores benefit from that.
Yes. And this program, because of the fact that we do have a lot of people who are participating currently, and we are pretty certain that there's a lot more that could. We're kind of at a holding pattern where we're not really taking on new clients quite yet, but we're hoping to find additional funding sources. So I'm trying to look into anything that I can. Anytime a grant comes across,
would this qualify for it or anything like that. And then I'm gonna have to go kind of do some researching with maybe some of the foundations or something to see if there's more help that we can get into the program. Okay, so the next one that I have on here is the Four Rivers Early Learning Hub. And I sit on that as the Gillan County representative. And basically that looks at birth to about 6 years old is the focus. It's not the only focus, because there are a lot of things that happens beyond 6 years old as well. But that's the focus from the governor's direction after the commission sunsetted. So with that, we have some funding opportunities through the Student Success Act, potentially new funding that could come through the state, and that's kind of to be determined still exactly how those will roll out to us. Maybe some different stuff here, sorry. We're partnering with GOBI, which is the Greater Oregon Behavioral Health Program, to provide some parenting education in Gillan County, and that is through the Triple P Parenting. And right now, one of the great things about that is it allows for online parenting education classes, and it's taken at your own pace. They don't have to everybody, get into a classroom together or anything to do those. So currently, started on February 24th, there is a Triple P parenting class that they're doing, and it would be 5 virtual weeks of classes and then 3 individual check-in phone calls. So when you're on the virtual class, this one here, it would be kind of a group setting now, the way that one would be. It is a class of a whole bunch of people. Excuse me. And then there is some funding that will be kind of additional to the Four Rivers Hub because of COVID, and that will help some additional things. But at this point in time, they're trying to figure out the budget, and I don't know exactly what all that will entail and how it will be able to roll out into Gillan County. I know that there was going to be some funding possible to have people turn in applications. So for Arlington Childcare, Condon Childcare, Arlington Preschool, any individual programs as well, not just the center or the main ones. If anybody's doing in-home care, they can apply for stuff and see if they are approved. So. Okay. So now we'll talk a little more about the LCAC, which is the Local Community Advisory Council. And so that, again, is one of the partners in the parenting education program. And if I forgot to mention, the Four Rivers Early Learning Hub is also partnering with GOBI to have more funding and partnership to put together more classes, allowing for more families to be able to take those. Everything is free to the family. And also the Four Rivers Early Learning Hub was getting some funding through Google, and they were going to be purchasing some technology like tablets or Google Chromebooks or whatever they are, and to have those resources. So if I wanted to take a class, but I didn't have the technology to do it, that they can provide that to the family as well.
What makes up 4 rivers? Learning how to say, how many counties?
Yeah, there's 5 counties, and so it is Hood River, Wasco, Sherman, Gillan, and Wheeler. And we're technically the largest hub with the greatest number of counties, I guess, put together. I don't know the geographical area or anything like that, but. And so then the Frontier Veggie RX program, as we just talked about, comes through the Community Advisory Council. I'm going to continue to be a prescriber for that program. And we fund it through our CBIR, which is our Community Benefit Initiative Reinvestment Funds through GOBI. It is becoming a requirement that all of them in all CCOs in the state now put some money back out into the communities that they are in. And GOBI has been doing this, or EOCCO, for several years, so we're a little bit ahead of the game. We've been putting funds back into the community. We have a virtual dental project. It is up and running, located down here in Arlington at the clinic. And Ashley Danielson does come in 1 time a month, I believe, right now. And she can do some dental examinations, and then she connects with an actual dentist virtually to have them do the diagnosis of whether the child needs any further action taken. And so then they would say, okay, you look good, we'll just clean your teeth, or you need this filling or some further dental care, and then they help them get to whatever dentist that they need to go to. They help them figure out what that would be.
And what's her capacity? Is she a dentist or hygienist?
She is an expanded practice dental hygienist or something sort of like that. So she had to take additional training to be a part of this project. And so what she can do is she can clean your teeth. She can do some very minor fillings, nothing that requires a drill or anything, but she can use some sort of a tool that she can scoop some stuff and fill. But yeah, so it's expanded a little bit, but not a real full-on dentist. But she works with the dentist closely to get those kids worked on. And currently they're only seeing folks that are on the Oregon Health Plan. They can't take any other insurance at this point. So, and then just with regards to dental things, Dr. Mike at the South Gilliam Health Center has been approved, so he can accept Oregon Health Plan clients now as well. So all the people in our county have somewhere that they can go in our county to get some of their services done at least. So that's good. And then we're trying to work on recruitment of more consumer members for our Community Advisory Council, meaning people who consume or are on the Oregon Health Plan. Or maybe a parent is not, but their child is, they could still be a part of it. Or if somebody takes care of somebody else that is on the Oregon Health Plan full-time and they're their provider, in-home healthcare type provider, they could be on our board as well. So we are looking to fulfill quite a few positions. I think we're looking for about 7 folks that are consumers that we would like to have on our LCAC. If anybody is listening, I'll call out for volunteers again, now, so. Is that what it was last time? Okay.
Questions for Ted?
What about animal control?
Oh, look. Okay. So I just had a couple things, and we had some slides from our last time and this time, and I'm not sure where we were at with it. But what I have down is I'm now going to be doing the Gillan County Connections newsletter, and one of the goals there was to try to at least double the amount of people that were signed up to receive it. So looking for folks in our county to actually get signed up, to get them electronically instead of doing the whole mailing thing the way that we had done. So doubling up would be it was 124 January 1st. So trying to look at 250 to have it by the end of the year. So I'm doing some incentives. If you sign up in February, there was a drawing and a couple of people are winning some $20 gift certificates to local businesses, a different thing each month that I'm going to try and do. And so it'll be the same for this month. And at the end, then we know who was signed up at the, for each month, then we'll know who signed up in that month and they'll be able to get something. Working a little bit on homelessness and with CAPCO and trying to investigate some resources for people. We know that last year for 2020, there was 73 that they had as a one point in time count, the PIT count, that somebody was experiencing some type of homelessness. And some of the definitions of that could be living in subpar homes, and we know that we have those in our communities, both, some that don't have running water or different things, or maybe don't have windows or whatever. And some of the other piece to that could be the McKinney-Vento numbers with the school district for kids experiencing homelessness. They can be defined as some that are doubling up, living with friends or family, or couch surfing, so to speak, or double families in a home because you can't find a house to rent in Gillan County. It's hard, and things like that. And then, so one of the thoughts behind that is I'm going to look more into Habitat for Humanity and see what that's like. I heard last month that you guys were talking with the college, and so I kind of want to pursue that a little bit to see how that could work into some stuff, and maybe see if I could become a part of that. And then, of course, if we're able to do my summer work experience program, it's very uncertain on whether or not there would be an OYCC program because of the funding and COVID. And we haven't really heard yet, so I'm kind of finding that to be not a good sign.
Yeah.
So those were everything that I had.
Questions for Teddy? All right, we're off the hook. You're
All right. So I'm going to start with the senior well-being. I worked with the NCPHD and Gillan County Transportation to get it so that we could get people vaccinated, trying to get them done quicker. But then it's ended up that Gillan County's ended up getting more vaccines, so we haven't been able They allotted us like 5 slots every week. We only did it like for 2 weeks, and then my phone calls, I wasn't getting anywhere, because then they opened it up and people have gone to Gillan County and then over to Fossil. So we haven't had to do that, but we do have to take them on their second shot to the Dallas to get that done. And then weekly, I have been sending out crosswords, word searches, bingo, bought $5 gift certificates at local businesses in Arlington and Condon to give as the bingo gifts for people. And then just providing them information as far as well-being with the COVID, trying to keep them updated on that. And then another thing that I've been looking into is a community garden. I just think it would be something that could really help our communities as far as, because I feel like we're kind of losing our older generation of teaching how to plant a garden, how to do a garden. I don't think that maybe that's something our younger generation is not involved with. And that way it could be something that would work with our senior citizens and our younger kids. I know like Condon, they do have a greenhouse up there at the school. And I've talked to the city a little bit. And then as well as the school up on our end. And then I don't know, like Arlington, if they have a greenhouse or anything down here, nothing like that. Okay. But that's just kind of trying to get the feelers out there and see, you know, maybe that's a way. I don't know that it could happen due to COVID this year. You know, I don't know, we're still kind of up in the air with that, but I just think it's something that I think would be beneficial. And then like the produce that comes off of it would go like to our meal sites. People in need of it, food pantry, whatever, is how we can turn around and get rid of some of those. Well, zucchini. So yeah, so I'm just trying to like weigh out some things with that and see if that's a possibility of.
Because I don't know how to vegetable garden, and I need some tips, so that would be great.
Would you give me a spot? So yeah, so just trying to get, you know, to work with that, and that way then I think instead the older generation could help the younger generation, because I feel like we're losing that part of our life and culture that, you know, we're just letting it go. And
do you have some land that could pick that?
so actually, I did get an email for Condon. Gib had emailed me, asked me if I was still like pushing forward with this. So the city's willing to work with us as far as getting, so I don't know if they were thinking like the school lots or something.
Oh, that would be cool.
I'm not sure where he was thinking, and I said, you know, if you got other plans for those, I'm sure we can do something else, but obviously we had to put a deer fence in and that kind of stuff. Because then I didn't even talk to like the school, but that's kind of on a hold type thing until the school gets rebuilt. You know, because they did put in that greenhouse a couple of years ago. And I said if we could do something even like right there by that, to do something. But yeah. So just a thought of things that I've been trying to just think of to get the community to pull together. So any advice down here in Arlington to do something like that, or if there's a call
we can look
and see if they're, and see if people are interested in doing that.
Yeah, I think get it out there and see what.
Yeah, just okay, and then the next thing was the Sheba Counselor, which is Senior Health Insurance Benefits Assistance. I have been doing the online training to get certified so that I can do that. I have 2 more, from what she tells me, I think it changes all the time, but 2 more online trainings, which are like maybe 2 hours a piece to do, and then 10 hours of job shadowing. She was hoping that there could be somebody like in Condon or Arlington that I could like shadow with her when she was doing it. We're gonna do one next Wednesday with somebody in Sherman County, and they agreed that I could job shadow with her while she was going through that. So that's moving in a forward motion. And it'll just be to assist the seniors in navigating their Medicare options. and advise seniors of their rights. Which it looks to me like there's lots of training and updating to keep going with that. As I've got into there, they have all kinds of good online resources with that. So the meal sites in Arlington and Condon, we are currently doing the curbside pickup meals or delivering to those that can't come and get the meals. I reached out to Capco to find out if they know of like a date that maybe we can get back to the meal sites. They have not said any dates, because I've always said since the beginning that maybe once vaccine, then we could go back. And the seniors are really like questioning me as why, when can we get back together? So let's see. We approximately are serving like 50 in Arlington and 75 in Condon, which our numbers are up. And I got with Lisa earlier and we were able to get some CARES money for to-go containers. And then one of our ranges at the church was not working properly, so we were able to put that in on that too, so that helped out. Our budget, I believe, is going to be short due to now that we're having to do it all to go, we have to serve more food. Whereas when people were coming there, they could pick and choose, and we hadn't figured out how much food we needed to serve. So now we're buying a lot more food, and then it has helped not have to buy all the to-go containers like we were too. So people aren't donating like normal either, because we said in the beginning that we'd take care of it. So but anyway, so yeah. Is there any questions?
No, but could I ask? We're in the house, we'll plug in from up there and we'll get over there and control it.
Sure.
We'll watch the rest of the stuff. Before we go on
That works.
I just want to invite before Pat leaves that once we get back together, for you guys to come and eat at the meal sites, because they really enjoy that. And then also I would like to thank Commissioner Wilkins for helping out every week to get because we are kind of short on volunteers.
Did you ever get Brian to help?
Yes. She does.
Yeah, but he's not working.
We're waiting for Pat.
My driver. I think this is a good match. Now we can drive Sherry around.
There you go. Tuesday, 11:30. We'll see you, Pat.
Yeah, I will say, it's no offense to our restaurants in Condon, but the meal site's the best meal in town on Thursdays. I would say. I'm biased, but it's good.
But yeah, so, and like I said, we're short on volunteer help. But then I'm having pushback from my volunteers because CAPCO is requiring more like volunteer, they have to fill out paperwork, all that stuff. And a lot of them don't have emails. Right. And so that's been my thing with them. It's like a lot of these people don't have emails, they don't want to give you your information. So I'm just afraid by them pushing this that we're going to lose even more volunteers because they don't want to, they're already donating their time. So, yeah. So we're getting ready to work through some of those things. But, yes. So is there any other questions?
I don't, but I'm gonna go outside and cough.
It's okay, that transition.
I don't either. I need to say that you always do a fantastic job.
Thank you.
And I really wasn't joking that it's the best meal. All right, let's do a shift. Mary,
Come on at the same time.
come on,
We do less transitions.
do we need to go library first?
Yes.
Soon as Sherry takes back to the side. It's there. were laughing because today's her 3-month birthday and she was so silent this morning. She was up at 1, 4, and 7. And I was like, how are you smiling? Like, mommy's eyes are not even open right now. She was just in there kicking and
Happy as can be.
Grandma Kim came in and we all sang her happy birthday and she was loving it. And like, mommy needs some coffee.
Okay, let's get that.
All right. Mary, speaking of, do you have any questions? All right.
So I believe it's OICC, upcoming programming and events with the first slide.
Yeah, OICC and summer work.
Yeah. So every year for the last several years, we've worked with Teddy, with OICC crew, and last year in 2020, we had a bunch of projects planned behind the library, but COVID put a stop to those. So we are hoping to do those this year in 2021. And that would be to re-edge all of the grass out back, reconfigure some of the flower beds and clean them up a little bit, put down new bark. And then the walking path, we were gonna move it out away from the wall a little bit. And then we had permission from the city to paint the wall from the old fire hall. So hopefully we can move forward with that this summer. And then, last year, the last couple of years also, we've used the summer work experience students. And we have them come in to the library and help us out with weeding and any other little projects that we have. So this year we're hoping to get 1 or 2 again. And then I usually have a couple other students that I've run through the county budget. So this year, if we get all of the girls back, we are wanting to expand our summer hours and be open from 8 to 5. And maybe last year the girls wanting to even do a Saturdays.
Wow.
So with that many staff members, we can do it. And it would be June, July, and August. And then go back to winter hours come September.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, so, and they're wanting to do that, so if they're willing, then I'm willing to do it with them. And then we'll be starting up our summer reading program, and that goes through June 17th through August 5th. And this year, because of COVID, we still can't do any in-house programming, in-person programming. So we'll do craft bags again. And we have the Border Collie International that were supposed to come last summer. They are scheduled now for June 17th, and they'll be at the city park. And his name is Brock, and he rescues Border Collies, and then he trains them to do all kinds of roll tricks and stuff. We had him 5 or 6 years ago, and he was one of our biggest events that we had. We had to hold it in the play shed because we had so many people. And we filled the play shed. So that's it for that slide. Yes. So that brings us to the Holland & Sons building out behind the library that will be coming down. And we are hoping that once this building is down, then we can finally get the sidewalk fixed. And I don't know what the county court has decided to do with that spot, but we're hoping that maybe we can get parking for library patrons and staff during business hours. And then once that building comes down, we need a place to store our books, our chairs, and miscellaneous items that we have in there right now. So I don't know what you guys have planned, but that's what we're hoping.
I think initially we had talked about just leaving it there for parking.
Yeah, well, maybe we could get a old hickory shed for
Yeah.
Storage.
Yes, anything.
They are great.
Why don't you, if you could, kind of figure out what, how big
How big?
dimension you need,
Yeah,
and let's talk about getting that budgeted,
Yeah.
once it comes down, because I'm thinking probably it won't be officially done until probably early fiscal year.
That's what we're thinking.
Right.
So
Yeah.
that way we can put it in the budget and make sure
Yeah.
we have a storage space for it.
So that brings us to our next slide, which is upcoming budget needs. It was suggested to me to increase our capital outlay from 3,000 to 10,000 to cover that building,
Okay.
that storage building. And then the next budget item is increase our maintenance from 3,500 to 5,000, because this last year, I don't know if it was just because it was 2020 or what, but our HVAC motor went out. And then we had lights, safety lights put in outside, so that came out of Daryl's budget. And then just recently, we had plugged sewer lines. So that came out of Daryl's budget. So just for precautions for future, to maybe increase that line item.
Okay.
And then I was also wanting to increase our book budget from 5,000 to 6,500. That's all I have.
I think I have one. Yeah, let's find out what, prefab storage would cost.
And
Definitely, yeah, keep one.
yeah, Daryl had looked into some here a while back, and he was thinking like around 2,500.
Yeah.
But that was just for a little one. I don't know how big.
Yeah, I'm thinking, we need to measure and see.
Yeah.
Tables and chairs will fit in.
Because our chairs is a cart that holds
Right.
34 chairs, I think, so it's fairly large.
Yeah, and you want one with the door that so you can roll on in.
Yes.
And I'll take you up to look at ties, because he put a ramp and
Okay.
I'll ask him how much his was, because I
Yeah.
perfect.
And the other thing we'll want to just do is that I believe that building is in the historical district in Condon. It just want to make sure
Yes.
you're coordinating with Catherine.
Yes, yes, Catherine has to approve everything.
Yeah, make sure that it's going to be acceptable to
Yes.
the city planners to put it there.
Yes.
And then I also just want to do a shout out, since I have a new baby, about Imagination Library.
Yes.
I want to just mention that briefly for anybody who's interested in signing. I signed up to Ainsley. Well, Granny can't sign up to Ainsley, but
Yes.
other parents sign up.
So it's through Dolly Parton, and it's the Imagination Library. She originally started it for Kentucky from her hometown. And it grew so much that it is now internationally known. So our book sale usually we just have to pay the postage for the books, and it's for any Gillan County child from 0 to 5 years old. They get a book delivered to them through the post office. And we have to be a 501c3, so we are in partnership with the Arlington Friends of the Library. And so their name's on the book, and Gillan County's name's on the book that it comes from. And it's a great program. I don't have the numbers with me, but we have, well, I might, it's in the briefing. We've sent out over 3,000 books since we took this on in 2015, I believe.
Yeah, 3,047.
Yeah. So, and they get them every month until they turn 5 years old. And then they're in school, so.
Yeah.
That's been a great program.
So if you have, I'm saying this to the public, if you home and you have a child
Yes.
between the ages of 0 and 5, should they call you to figure out how to sign up?
They can call us, there's a link on our website, I believe there's also a link on our Facebook page, or they can call the library, or they can Google it, and they'll bring up the Imagination Library, and as they put in their information, there's a code and everything, it'll bring up our library. In the process.
Great work.
Yeah.
Are very. I think so. Great first report. You did awesome. It's nerve wracking when you're on the hot seat. You did great. All right, Michelle, you're up.
Okay, I'll just first ask, are there any questions or comments regarding the staff briefing? Okay. Okay, I think the first slide is planning commissioner training. Yes, okay, I'm on the wrong page. So in January, I welcomed 3 new commissioners, Derek Heiser, Gib Wilkins, and Jeff Schott, and they joined Marta Michaelo and Wade Johnson. The minimum right now for board members is 5, so we're at capacity. I was a little nervous. We had 3 that went off as of December 31st, so we did fill all those positions. In fact, one of those positions got filled after my last staff report in December. So we were down 1, and then someone participating remotely got a hold of me that same day after my staff report and said, so you really need someone? I go, yes, I need someone. I reported that. And I go, yeah, okay, just a second. So they put their name in. And so that was great that I mentioned that, because it did get a volunteer immediately that was interested. So that was good. So we got a full crew of 5 members. Did some training in February. We did some training on types of public hearings. There's legislative and quasi-judicial. Then we touched bases on conflicts of interest and the difference between potential and actual. And then we have other public hearings on the radar. And so it provided a opportunity, not all members, most of ours have at least participated from a participant, if not had been an active role. And so we've got we talked about some hearings that are coming up, and we've got both quasi-judicial and legislative hearings coming up. And it's just going to prevent an opportunity for evaluation on how the functionality of these hearings work with the planning commission and my interaction with that, because we'll have time to evaluate, because we're going to have several back-to-back. And so it will give us that opportunity. Most of the time when we've had hearings in the past, it's been few and they've been months apart. And so it's kind of exciting to see. We're going to be able to go back to back, and we're going to be able to see how can we improve the next one and reassess. So I'm kind of excited about that, because we've never had that opportunity of having those back to back. And some of those other hearings coming up is we have a non-farm dwelling parcel partition coming up, and those go before the planning commission, and because it's all exclusive farm use. And then we have a aggregate site from Oregon Department of Transportation further in Mayville. So different types, but it'll be exciting. Yeah, I'm not sure everyone knew what they were signing on to 2021. It's going to be a very busy year of planning commission activity. And so I did take the opportunity in February just to go over some of those highlights, just knowing we're gearing up to a busy year. So and everyone, except for a few technology issues, we went well. Very well. It was well received. Okay, next. Next in planning, we have our rural residential zoning. Currently, there is a project north of Cottonwood Lane in Condon. It is generating a lot of interest, and it's generating interest from people in Arlington to see if this is successful, that maybe there's opportunities in other areas of the county that might be able to do something similar in nature. So it's on people's radars. So that's kind of exciting, because land use generally isn't, unless it immediately affects you.
Yeah.
So that is exciting that we're drumming up more interest in land use and how it impacts and can affect people, and that we can change things, or at least attempt to go through the process. All zones or rezones in the county must be approved by the county court. So right now we do have them going. So that's tentatively to come before the court. It's April meeting. And so those proceedings are like most of the stuff I bring to the county court. There will be an ordinance, and then you have to do your reading and the second reading. So there's definite process when land use comes before the county court. But we'll have to notice everything and make sure that people are aware of what's being discussed. Also, any rezone or any potential rezone has to be noticed to the Oregon Department of Land Use and Conservation. And they have a required amount of time to respond to what we've provided them and to provide input. And some of that input could come at the time of the hearing. So we're working through that process. I have done all the due diligence of noticing them per their line system. And so we'll see. One individual has reached out from the department and just wanted more information. So not being, not criticizing the concept, just trying to understand the position of where Gillan County is. And I was very thankful they did do that. Right. And so that was very well welcomed. Again, this subject matter has the potential for additional work sessions in the county to assess if there are other possibilities. I don't know if I've told the county or have brought this up in previous reports. All the zoning was established in 1977. So that court at the time took the best guess ever and attempt and said, okay, this circle area, this area is how we're going to define Gillan County for land use. And so through the course of time, development has taken on its course, and it's not always where we thought development would take place, even though it may have happened, and in the confines and the interpretations of our rules, it was allowed. So now trying to maybe take a step back and say, is there more development that we can encourage in other areas that maybe we didn't think, but makes more sense today, and more incentives? And so I think that might present an opportunity for the Planning Commission and the court, or myself and the court, just to have some discussions and work sessions moving forward. And I think that first step is this Cottonwood project. We'll see. I'm very encouraged that we'll be successful in this endeavor. And so I think it just opens the door for us. And then for my next slide, Gillan County Zoning and Land Development Ordinance. I know I've touched about this subject matter with the county court before. This is an internal document. It is required by the state of Oregon that we have this document. And we are in a session. Oregon is in the legislative session year. And so it will be one goal of this year, and at the conclusion of the session is to try to get ahead of any updates that we need to do. Gillan County has not always been on the forefront of trying to implement all of those changes. It is a lengthy process. I can't just administratively update the code without going through a public hearing process to do that. And so that's sometimes has been a stumbling block of, yes, we need to do it, but it's been put off due to the day-to-day stuff that have more immediate needs. And so that is one goal, to say and assess. And Association of Oregon Counties is very good at letting us counties know at the conclusion what may impact us, what legislation we need to look forward, or administrative rules may be coming that may impact our areas. And so I really do appreciate that connection that I have, and that they do have a planning department organization through the association. The exclusive farm use section is our largest section in the Gillan County's zoning and land development ordinance, which is rightly so, because over 90% of the county is exclusive farm use land. And there are there's areas where the text in the document could be cleaned up. And again, like I just alluded to, it can be a lengthy process, and this is a very large section of the code. And so I am attempting to do a component of just exclusive farm use. And so that's being a test run this month, and we'll see how well that component fares with the Planning Commission, or if it just makes too many, it may open up the discussion of why aren't we addressing the other stuff. So, because I know there's other things that need to get done, but I'm trying to narrow the focus and really appreciate the Planning Commission's time to go through that whole section. That could take a whole day. And because you want to be diligent and you go through it. And so I've always, it's been in the back of my head that we need to get some of these updates, and I was just like, how do you bite it off? And I've been trying to do a whole chunk. So now, you know, as the saying, one bite of the elephant at a time. So I'm trying this approach. We'll see how it goes with this new Planning Commission, and if it's well received, then we'll just try to keep doing that, just taking a chunk, because the whole pie has not been a successful adventure at this moment. So
That's what I've got for the county court today.
Questions for Michelle?
On your slide, it said potential for a guest ranch.
Yes. Okay, so that's my trial run of taking a component bite size for the exclusive farm use. Oregon law made guest ranch provisions an allowable permanent use in exclusive farm use in 2018. It started back in 1997 as temporary rules. So the county had it in the Gillan County zoning ordinance temporarily, and they actually approved one. But then hindsight, is amazing. They approved one, and then the temporary rules were extended. Was it extended? Was it not? It was kind of vague. And so there was an update of the Gillan County zoning ordinance, and that was removed during that update. I don't know the whole impetus of why it was removed, but I can suspect why. There was no current activity, no one was doing that, but the one that was permitted originally is still active. And so for them to do any expansion or any improvements, it becomes a nonconformity because it was removed from the code. So our component of just taking one little bite is to get it back in the code. So that they will be able to come forth because they do have an interest of doing some expansion. So we're trying to just bite size, get that component back in because it was permanent as of 2018. It is subjective. The county does not have to allow it. But at this point, why would we not, since we already have an existing one? Is kind of the premises. And we know that they are looking for expansion at some point because they have, put feelers out. So we're just trying to lay down the groundwork of getting this done. And so that is part of the hearing that I have 3 hearings that will take place on March 30th with the Planning Commission, and that's one of the hearings that will take place. And then hopefully the recommendation is to move forward, and then we'll bring it to the county court and go through that process. Sorry, yeah, that was the last little bullet that I missed there on the slide. Thank you.
Other questions for Michelle? I think so. Exciting times.
Yeah.
It is,
We're
and
going to be seeing you a lot this year.
the county court will be seeing me a lot. Yes, because a lot of these public hearings will not stop at the planning commission level. The level of activity dictates that it must go to the county court. So yes, you'll get to see me a lot. But I think we've got a pretty good understanding and flow when we've done some hearings most recently with the county court. And I'm open to any feedback too, since I know at least that I have 2 veterans that have been through some hearings with me. So if you have any feedback or if you can recall, just let me know so that we can, address that moving forward. And I always welcome any member of the county court or even the public to come and visit. Now the courthouse is open, appointments are encouraged. We really do encourage it, because you have to contact Trace, and so appointments are encouraged. But just to stop in if you have any questions.
Great. Thanks, guys. This is wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Sherry, announcements of next meeting. So our next meeting will be April 7th, at Courthouse. We'll do the continuation of this public hearing that we had beginning on the assessment, and I'll probably have a whole bunch of fascinating topics. I don't know what else is going on. What do you have going on?
I'm going for tomorrow. We're starting our budget process. There has been positive case of COVID, but it was an employee who had not been in the facility, so they have been COVID free, and we're quite proud of how they've managed that, both the juvenile and the adult side. So we will meet tomorrow and talk about budget, and what else do I have going on? Oh, ECAN, gosh, every time I cannot remember what ECAN stands for. Anyway, it's
It's for extension, right?
yeah, extension, county extension, within the county or the state, and we have a training on the 24th, so I'll be doing that. And I had a call from Nan at Arlington concerned about the train parking behind the building because of the garbage. And I got a hold of Jason Seeger with Watco, and he and I sat down with Dan yesterday, we had a really good conversation and so that very
Got it
well.
worked out.
Yes, it was nice to connect with Jason. We were, familiar with each other from my time at Waste Management, so I'm glad to have Jason in that position at Watco. He's easy to talk to, and we had some other conversations, so.
Great.
That's about it.
Sounds like you've been busy. Pat, are you on? Do you have any updates? Are you doing your county college? I see him on there.
Just has us in the background.
I'll give him a second. I'll start if he unmutes. We'll have him catch us up. Otherwise, we'll plan on it for next time. Let's see. What do I have going on? A full slew of meetings. We are working on getting that housing follow-up meeting scheduled for the 30th. Is that right? With the community college and local partners. And I just got an email that Sherman County might want to come to that meeting as well. So Joe might want to participate. That's good. Stealing all of our good ideas.
Share them.
I also got an email from the state that they have our building codes agreement back from their attorneys.
Cool.
Yay. So I'm going to send that over to Christy just to make sure they didn't do anything that they have a problem with. But at this point, I think we'll probably accept it. And so hopefully that will be back on the agenda for the next meeting. And I already updated you on fiber. That was the exciting meeting from yesterday. Let me see what else I've got. Then that, a lot of AOC meetings coming up. Obviously, the legislature has been very busy. And then we'll be getting into budget here. I think the budget worksheets will go out next week, and so staff will be busy putting their budgets together for next year too. So we'll be all working on that internally. And that is all I have. Just double check that. Didn't unmute yourself. So we'll catch up with Commissioner Shannon next time. Anything else for you?
Yeah, don't forget to ask for what you want.
What do you mean?
You never know. No might not be the answer.
Mary is like, yeah, no, but seriously.
Yeah,
People
because
are,
you can say no. You know how to say that.
Is another thing, you know, if you're coming in and thinking you may need some funds for that, put it in there so the budget committee can talk about it. For sure.
You aren't gonna get it if you don't ask for it. Yeah, that's my theory.
The worst that can happen is we can say
Just say
no,
no.
and you're back with what you got anyway.
And then you come back and ask again.
Exactly. All right, so if there's nothing else for the order, it is 1:35 and I'll adjourn.
Thank you all.